You can hear me? Okay? Yeah? All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to Housing, Health, and Human Services. This is our monthly committee meeting for the month of May 2025. I got that right? Yes.
The year.
May 1st, 2025. I'm Maria Ortiz, co-chair of this committee, along with Joe Rasucha. Let me see. What do we have on? Okay. As a reminder to members, CB4 has a hybrid meeting policy that you can find on our website. Essentially, we just need an in-person quorum, and if you are going to be attending online, just please leave your cameras on. Next to the attendees of the meeting, you can sign up for agenda items and events that are happening in the community on the CB4 website. And we have a lot of attendees online. That's good. So next, if this is your first CB4 meeting, everything that we're doing right now is streaming live on YouTube, where it'll live forever. Normally what we do during a committee meeting is we have a presentation. Then the committee here speaks and asks questions, makes comments. Then usually it goes to the public and then back to committee. Depending on what's happening, sometimes we write a letter or a resolution that goes to the next full board meeting, which is the first Wednesday of every month. And before we begin, let's just do some quick introductions for folks who are on the committee, starting with
Paul Ames, public member.
we have Jesse Bodine, who is the district manager of Manhattan Community Board 4, Maria Ortiz,
Joe Rasucha, co-chair.
Katie Savage, member,
Kevin Collins, member. Pete Diaz, member. Larry, member.
Roberta Barnett, member. And
The people.
I see JD. JD, can you introduce yourself, and then Rachel?
Jean Danielle, member.
Rachel Lee, member.
Do we have any other members online?
No.
All right, thank you, Rachel. So this month for May, we also have another member that's coming in a few minutes, Travis Rogers. I guess I should introduce him. For this month on the agenda, we have two items. The first thing is CHDC, and second thing is NYCHA. PSA, I'm gonna give a public service announcement really quick because it is May, so it's the first day of Mental Health Awareness Month, and I did want to have something on the agenda for this month, but I wasn't able to coordinate that happening, and also I expected that what we do have on the agenda is gonna take a lot of time today. I could be wrong. However, self-care plug, self-care, take care of yourself when you're feeling really overwhelmed and stressed, whatever that looks like to you. For me, massages, salsa dancing, connecting with people one-on-one. You know, right, Paul? We also have another member in the room, a CB4 member. You want to introduce yourself?
Paul Dutton from Chelsea Van Houston.
Yes, thank you for being here. So for the first item, it is CHDC, Clinton Housing Development Company. I used to say corporation, Clinton Housing Development Company, which Joe, my co-chair here, is the executive director of, so he cannot participate in this part of the meeting. Are you gonna stay sitting here or are you gonna move?
They sit here.
So what I will say about,
So I will note that I'm conflicted because it's Clinton Housing,
yes.
for the record.
So Clinton Housing Development Company is a nonprofit, community-based, affordable housing development organization. We also have someone here from HCC, which is Housing Conservation Coordinators. It's also a nonprofit, community-based organization that helps preserve affordable housing in the community. And they have a team of lawyers, advocates, tenant organizers, and they are here. We also, Jesse, you would know, do we have any tenants online at all?
I wouldn't be able to recognize all of their names, but I My understanding is that you will not be attending.
Okay, yes, that was my understanding is the tenants have made a choice to decline attending this evening. I found that out yesterday. Mark is here from HCC that represents the tenants. Mark, is there anything you just want to add or say to add to the conversation before we allow CHDC to respond?
Yeah, no, I'll just comment and say I'm here mainly in a listening capacity. You know, HCC has been helping to liaise between the tenants and CHDC and the community board over the last couple of months. And yeah, our intention here is just to hear about the progress report from CHDC, hear about what the community board and this committee are doing to help out the tenants. There may be some tenants listening in tonight, but I don't think we're actively planning on, participating in like a speaking or like commenting capacity.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mark. Mark, how do you say your last name again?
Natanawan.
Natanwan.
Natanawan.
Natanwan. All right,
Perfect.
thank you. Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself and, yeah, come stand where the X is?
At some appropriate spot. Hi, good night, everyone. I am Ryan Marcano. I'm the Director of Operations for Fulton Housing. You'll be hearing my voice tonight. If I start to fan, it's because I'm starting to sweat, so pay no attention. We were here last month in April, and some of the tenants in CHDC had a list of issues or requests that they went to HCC with, that they wanted HCC to help them liaise to us.
And thank you for that. As a reminder, I just want to share, the committee had voted on a letter, and there was three main things.
Okay.
That CHDC would return in 30 days to provide updates on the resolutions. Number two, that CHDC would report to the committee on proposed short-term and long-term resolutions and timeframes. Number three, CHDC would collaborate and communicate closely with tenants on these issues. And we received a letter from CHDC yesterday that is in the Dropbox, and it's 12 pages. I don't want you to report on everything in here. If you could elaborate on specific things that I think that I want to mention, and I don't know if committee members might have other questions too about specific items, but specifically staffing, roof leaks, elevator service, specifically at 554 West 53rd, the heat and hot water at West 30th. And that's it for right now.
So I will start with staffing. CHDC has 6 buildings which run 24 hours a day. The time frame is midnight to 8. The shifts are midnight to 8, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 4 p.m. to 12 midnight.
And how many buildings do you have in your portfolio
30.
in total?
75 in total. Only 6 are supportive housing buildings. Only 6 buildings have front desk that run 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So out of the 70, only 6 have front desk. How does the front desk work? It is the front desk responsibility to sign guests in and out. It is the front desk responsibility to do buildings rounds. It's the front desk responsibility to let tenants in if someone is locked out. When we have our main door locked, it's the front desk responsibility to open the door, lock the laundry room, things like that. Front desk step away from the front desk. People have to go to the bathroom. Sometimes we have to respond to tenants. Sometimes we have to escort EMS or police throughout the building. It is not for a long period of time. The most time, the maximum amount of time that a front desk person will step away from the front desk is about 5 to 10 minutes. When a front desk person steps away from the front desk, we have a policy in place. They have to use a "we will be right back" clock. Are you hearing me? Am I good?
Yeah, is everything okay? Oh, because it started blinking, I didn't.
No, it's good.
Oh, okay. So we have a clock that says we will be right back. It tells you exactly when the person who has left the front desk will be back. Since it is manned 24 hours a day and we expect someone to be sitting there 24 hours a day, we also have a policy about coverage. Our policy about coverage is I'm the midnight to 8 a.m. You're supposed to relieve me at 8 a.m. and you decide you're not coming to work today. You have to call out between a specific time frame to let someone else, we have an entire building whose function it is to find on-call coverage. So you call out and say, hey, I'm not gonna be in for my 8 a.m. shift. That specific building works on finding on-call coverage. So they will call people we have on an on-call roster. The entire capacity is to fill in when someone is out on vacation, when someone is out personal, when someone is out sick, when we have a no call or no show, because sometimes people just don't show up.
And one of the things that came up during our committee meeting last time was, when front desk staff have to do rounds. And so, and then that leaves no one sitting at the desk, and I believe the door has to be locked in the front when that's happening.
Yes.
And so, I forgot, where did what's the plan for resolving that?
The plan for resolving that, we took great stock into the things that the tenant said.
I'm sorry,
So we took stock into the things that the tenant said.
Okay.
What happens when they have to stand outside, because people feel like they're standing outside a little too long, they may be having an emergency, they may be wanting to get into their apartment quick. So what we are planning to do, we're spitballing different ideas, but an idea that actually came out from this committee is that we should allow when someone presses the bell, if a person is not at the front desk, that they have a phone or device on them that lets them know, hey, someone is at the front. Right now, we don't have that in place, and that suggestion came right up this committee. So we are researching what is the best and most efficient way to make that happen.
okay,
Because it is something that the tenants brought forward that we may not have been thinking about, because we're not.
and that's just one solution of others that you are.
Yes, we have a lot of different things thinking about, but that's just one solution that we're putting a lot of thought into.
Okay, and no questions about that? I wanna move on. Okay, roof leaks.
Okay. We have had in 2024 16 roof leaks. Of the 16, 2 are resolved, 14 are resolved, and 2 remain unresolved.
Okay,
We have one unresolved that we think is resolved right now at 480-10,000. And the reason why we think it's resolved because of the rain that we just recently had. We checked in with the tenants and he's now had no more leaks. And we have an aggravated roof leak at 554 West 3rd Street. The tenant in 7C is experiencing that roof leak. I will just give a synopsis of what's been happening, but the detail of everything that we've done so far is in the letter. So the tenant complained to us in March 2023. Between March 2023 and July 2023, we had Hudson Roofing come to that specific roof, portion of the roof in 554 West 53rd Street, and do a number of repairs. We thought we were successful. In August, the tenant said the leak is back. We fixed it again. We didn't hear from the tenants for about 9 months. And we checked in with the tenants periodically, even if they don't check in with us, we check in with them. We didn't hear from the tenants in about 9 months. So in 2024, the tenant said the leak is back. We engaged a different contractor to go back to different portions of the roof and do many different repairs. We did not hear from the tenant after that. In January 2025, we received a violation issued to us by HPD that there is a leak in that roof. So we didn't hear from the tenant after we made the repairs in 2024. We have now re-engaged the tenant to figure out what's happening. It is not a constant active thing that is happening every time it rains. So it is something that's happening periodically. The tenant was not giving us real-time information, so they may have had a leak in April, we may not hear about it until June. We have now re-engaged with the tenant and we are now communicating with the tenant differently. We are checking in with her more. So every time there is rain, anything that has to do with water, we're checking in with her to see if she had a roof leak. From January to now, we've done several different water tests in different parts of the roof. We've lifted the pavers up, we've hit the bricks, we've done different things, and we cannot find this leak. But she's now reporting to us in real time when it's happening. It hasn't happened since the last meeting.
and I don't know if all of the members here, did you all read the letter that was in the Dropbox that committee, several people on the committee worked on together? So I think you saw it too, but my understanding was with the roof leak in that specific unit, it was happening, it started in 2018, 2019, the very first one.
No,
And that there's been a handful since that time. I don't recall when, I don't know if we asked the last time it happened, but at this point, at this juncture, at this point in time, you are still doing tests to figure out what is.
yes, what's the
Happening.
cause of the leak? Because
And when was the last complaint? In January?
the last complaint was in April, and we were in the person called HPD and said there was a leak. And they called HPD in January to report a leak that happened in December 2024.
Oh,
So there was probably still a wet spot, the inspector came and said, here it is an active leak here. So we didn't know that it was still leaking until we received the violation from HPD.
and April's. So the last one was in April and you're still working
Yeah,
on
we're
resolving
still
that?
working on it.
Okay, what about the elevator specifically at 50 West 53rd, 554?
554 elevator. Between, so the past 2 years, the elevator has been having intermittent breakdowns.
Yeah.
Between December 2024 and January 2025, the breakdowns became more frequent. We have since engaged LCD. So just to back up a little bit, we have an elevator contract with LCD. Every time the elevator breaks down, we call the company, they come between 4 and 24 hours. That's the time frame they give us. And they come and repair it. We've had frequent breakdowns between December 2024 and January 2025. There was a period of, I want to say 10 days where the elevator was going down every single day. We'll call the elevator company, they will tell us what needed to be repaired, we repaired it, they repaired it, they went on about their business. But we had the elevator technician do an overhaul of the elevator, an analysis, and we had to change the motor bearings, we had to change the temperature switches. The same month, we received a violation in February 2025 because the elevator door was not closing properly. We've since fixed that, and we had an emergency light button that we needed to fix. So after the DOB inspection in February 11, 2025, we haven't heard anything about the elevator since. We are monitoring it, but the frequent breakdowns was between December 2024 and January 2025.
December 24, January
So
25.
earlier this year, there haven't been any issues.
Yeah, that's a month. I thought, okay. It was like a month's time frame where there was a lot of.
A lot of breakdowns, yeah.
Okay,
And we've made a lot of major changes to the elevator system.
and can, the heat and hot water at West 30th,
The heat and hot water at West 30th Street, we have one tenant at West 30th Street who's complaining it's either too hot or it's either too cold. So in April 2025, in our April 2nd letter to you guys, we explained to you guys that we have a heat and hot water service contractor, which is Learden. We've made some major repairs to the 30th Street boiler. 2 tenants are complaining that they're too hot. We did temperature tests in their apartments, and we found during these temperature tests that happened in March 2025, that it was an average of 78 or 88 degrees in their apartments. We've done major overhauls to this system, and we've had no HPD violations, we've had no heat complaints, all of except 2 tenants.
oh, but also the one tenant mentions in the cold months is, wait, did I get that right? In the cold months it's too cold?
In the cold months, it's too hot.
Oh. And in the
Sorry, in the cold months, it's too cold, and the hot months, it's too hot, so it's the opposite.
I got confused what she mentioned
She was
last
saying
time.
she was too cold in some portions, and she's too hot.
Yeah,
In the colder months, she's too cold.
It sounds like there's an issue with it not finding that Goldilocks zone. Sometimes it gets very cold or very hot, but it seems.
It's
kind of
not finding
subjective.
that Goldilocks balance for only 2.
And I saw something in the letter about, I don't recall this complaint, but you noted in the letter, tenants' complaints regarding drafts around through the,
We
The air
had tenants,
conditioners?
we had some tenants, we have through the wall ACs in every unit in that building, and some tenants were saying that they would, cold air was coming in through there. How we remedied that system is that we bought air conditioning covers for every single through the wall unit. So we put the covers on in the winter time and we take them off in the summer months. And we keep them and we do that process.
when did you do that?
We did that first in 2023.
Okay. I think that was it, the questions that I had for right now.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Regarding the building, what kind of a system do you have, by the way? And a heating system? The one that's having the problem with the hot, too hot, too cold?
It's a boiler system, convector boiler system?
Okay, so it's not a riser, up and down and piping system, no,
No,
no riser.
no. But it's literally two tenants and we're constantly checking it, right, to make sure, hey, so, sorry.
Try, putting sensors on both sides of the room
Oh, that's good.
so that it can read. Because it might be being, that it's too cold on one side of the room, and on the other side, it's very, very hot.
Okay,
So you put two sensors and you get, what they call back and forth reading, and it's, it's just right.
okay, thank you for that suggestion. What we've had in those two units specifically is that we realized that some of the tenants are blocking their convectors with items. So we've done inspections in the unit and say, hey, in order to help remedy this situation, let's help you move some things around. But people, want their homes a certain way.
Does anyone here, Roberta, you were about to
Oh,
ask a
I
question.
just, with the drafts, have you received any further draft complaints after the cutoffs were implemented?
Thank you. Any other questions here before I go online?
Regarding the roof, does it appear to be mold?
No,
In the apartment?
no.
It seems like water's coming down.
People get some water trickling down the wall at
Okay,
various times. We've repaired that spot several times.
yeah, a remedy for it temporarily, if it happens, is to put a tarp there so that it won't go to, room or into your apartment.
We
Yeah. that's-
We have our items where the roof seems to be,
Well-
where the water seems to be running down the wall covered.
Because you could be running from a different area, and it's
Yes.
coming slow, and then it's finding its way in.
Its way
So
in.
it's not right above, it's someplace else on the other line.
Okay,
That's usually where, it is.
Roberta?
And related to that particular tenant, there may have been some sort of back and forth about that tenant who is experiencing the persistent leaks being offered some other unit within the development. Has that occurred, or not, either within this building or another CHDC building?
she's made it clear to our former managers that she does not want to leave her unit.
Okay, so that she is not, she is
No.
articulated, she is
And
not.
she has articulated that in the meeting. She said we didn't offer, but she did make it clear she does not want to leave.
Oh, and the offer was a temporary relocation or a permanent relocation?
I think she was offered by the last building manager, it would be temporary.
Oh, okay, and she wasn't interested.
That's what the information.
I
we
think
were
she
given.
said that at our meeting also. I can't-
That may be the case. I just wanted to, what I didn't totally understand is whether or not it was offered. And that seemed to be a point of confusion, but I think Brian has indicated that
It was.
it was also just, she articulated she was not interested regardless of whether it was offered, so that might not be, pertinent.
Just so I'm clear, was it offered to her?
According to what I know, it was offered to her, she made it clear that she didn't want it.
Oh,
But she did say when she was here the last meeting that it wasn't offered, but she doesn't want it.
okay. Somebody else had a question? No, did I get that wrong? No, okay. What about online? I see JD, Katie, and I think that's it. So can we, and Rachel Lee also? Okay. Let's start with JD.
Thank you. Mark, I have a question for you. At any time, have you attempted to
Yeah.
with the director of CHDC to resolve these problems before coming to this committee?
Yeah, sure, I can comment on that. I first had
just want an
contact
an-
with the
Mark, I
tenants.
just need an answer, not a comment, just answer, please.
Oh, yeah, I was going to give my answer, comment, whatever you call it. So my answer is I first organized with the tenants of 554 West 53rd Street in 2023, and that's when we had our first meeting with CHDC. It was actually Ryan who met with us. We had several more meetings over the course of 2023 and 2024.
Yes, and I actually, that's actually in the letter. that HCC has had periodic contact with CHDC to address issues since July of 2023.
And just to follow up, Maria, I just want to get clear about this. So Mark, those meetings did not result in resolving the issue quick enough. So you decided to come to the committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, so some of the problems which we have brought in, the spreadsheet that we shared with the community board that we discussed last month that have been mentioned here today, those are problems going back the last couple of years, and they were brought up to CHDC at these previous meetings.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so
They were brought up, but
I'd like a resolution on that because this has been 2 committee meetings. And it seems that some of the problems do take time to resolve, like the leaks. So I'm
JD,
just
you
curious.
want resolution on what? I'm not understanding, and I need to be clear.
I believe Ryan was had a different point of view than was just expressed. So could she clarify that?
Not all of the items that were presented in the April spreadsheet, Mark and I discussed. Mark and I discussed items for 554 West 53rd Street, and that's it. You never knew that he represented any other building.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Okay. I think I recognize Katie next, and then
Great.
Rachel.
Hey, just 2 questions, and I apologize, I arrived late, so maybe this was addressed earlier. But first, regarding communication, we had heard, obviously, that there were tenants who felt that maybe all of their concerns, even if they were reporting to the front desk, weren't getting reported. And I know, Ryan, you had told us that once the new system is online, that then maybe there's going to be a chance at some point where people can report problems electronically.
That's correct.
And I'm wondering, Ryan, just can you give us a guesstimate of a date when that ability of the tenants to report things electronically so that they know it's reported and you know it's reported, when do you think that might become effective? Like,
that system goes along with our rent cafe system. And the first step in our rent cafe system would be tenants being able to pay their rent online. So we're going to probably premiere that. We're trying to premiere that, working very hard to premiere that at the end of the second quarter, which is the end of this quarter coming up here.
Yes, you mentioned that at the last meeting, and it's
I
in the
did.
letter.
And after,
When I say the letter, I mean the committee letter, excuse me.
I'm sorry. After we've done that and know that it's successfully working and we can premiere it at all our buildings, the next part of Rent Cafe will allow tenants to make complaints, work order complaints themselves online. However, we currently have a system in place where a tenant can make a work order complaint to the front desk. And after that complaint is inputted into our system called MaintainX, they can request a work order number. So they're sure that their complaint made it someplace and they have something to refer to when they're going back to the manager to say, hey, I made a complaint that my shower's been clogged on April 21st, and this is my work order number, and you haven't followed up. So there is a system in place where they can ensure that their issues are someplace.
right. And one of the things we had talked about when we'd done the walkthroughs together is that sometimes the staff says, oh, I'll do it in a little bit, no problem. And then so they don't get the work order number. Anyway, I was just wondering though, back to my question. So do you have a sense of about when? Is it in 6 months? Is it in a year that they'll be able to do it electronically?
To put a safe bet out, I'll put it out to be a year. If we deliver before that, we'll be happy.
Wait,
Okay.
I'm getting confused. I thought,
Not for Rent Cafe, not for the rent online payment, for the portion of Rent Cafe where the tenant can electronically make their own request rather than going to the front desk.
oh,
You're saying that
Alright.
that could take up to a year. Okay. And then my second question was just about the elevator. So thank you. I had asked at the last meeting sort of for more details about how often it had gone out and, the totality sort of the problem. And it sounds like, as you said, it was like 10 days that it was out almost every day. But just, I want to make sure that I understand now. You're saying that since, it sounds like maybe January or February, that there haven't been any more reports of that elevator going out. Is that right?
It may have gone down once or twice. I'm not gonna stand here to say it didn't go down at all from February to now. It may have gone down once or twice, but it's not going down with the same continuity that it was going down in December and January. It was literally going down almost every day.
Oh, well, that reminds me, Katie, that your question reminds me, I forgot. In April, we had said, you suggested quantifying any outages in the next 30 days. So in the month of April, have there been any?
I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you.
That would be great.
Nothing.
Okay, well, can you get that back to us next week?
Sure.
Thank you.
Follow-up question to Katie's comments, please.
Oh, okay.
Regarding the rent cafe and this electronic ability. That assumes that all your tenants have access to the internet or have the devices to do it. Is that the case?
We're not going to remove the current system that is in place. It is going to be available, so anyone who has the access and want to use it can do that. We will not abandon the
So
current system.
you'll be running both systems
Yes.
with them, great, excellent.
Thank you, Katie. Well,
Actually, Maria, can I just, sorry, as part of that, what you just said about, that people can always make sure that they get the work order number before they walk away from the front desk. We had talked about maybe it would be super helpful to have like a written reminder to the tenants that the way to ensure that their efforts are being heard or that their concerns are being heard is to not walk away from the front desk until they get a work order, even if the staff person says, don't worry, I'll take care of it later. Is that a communication that can happen to the tenants, like a helpful reminder?
It is a communication that can happen, yes. It is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We believe they know, but we will put it in writing so they can be sure that they can do that. They have that option.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Rachel?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My camera's off due to technology issues today, so apologies for that. So Ryan, hi. I saw you at the tours that you helped arrange, so thank you for arranging it that day and also for being here today. So just for the committee's awareness on the leakage issue, the leaky unit, I will call it, in West 53rd. So we actually got to see the leaky unit too. Ryan generously, arranged it last minute with us, communicated with the tenant and allowed us entry. And we got to speak to the tenant there. And in terms of the delay in, her reporting the leak, our understanding was sometimes there is a bit of delay in between like her finding out about it too. When there's heavy rain, there will be a time where the suspicion is the building has a structure where the water kind of seeps through, and then it takes some time for it to trickle down into her unit. And we actually got to see that the leak is now moved from her closet now into two of the bathroom walls. So it is happening in a weird, inexplicable way, but that's why, we got experts involved. So my question is, Ryan, during the tour, you said you had conducted a color test, right? And it came out clean. And I think you had mentioned to us that you were talking to the roofer. Has there been any updates from the roofer?
No, the roofer suggests that we take all the papers off, which we've done, and we are going to continue to conduct water tests. But like you said, it is a tricky leak. It's moving. We've conducted several water tests. We've used colors. We've done everything we can possibly think of to figure out where this leak is happening and when it's happening. But I think where we are missing the mark is when it's happening, because the tenant is saying that it's not happening. She's not aware of when it's happening, so she's not reporting it. And we don't understand how that happens. If that's where you live, you will know when the leak is happening.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky
We're a bit confused there as well.
Yeah. And it seemed like the leak was happening like through the wall. Like we saw the kind of watermarks on the wall, and it was, there was like a little bucket she had. And so again, agreed that it's a tricky situation. I think Kevin and I, when we were stepping down to that water cooler area in the roof, we saw a big gap between where we step on to get on the roof and also like where the water tank was located. There was a big gap in between the floor and the bottom part where the water tank was located. Kevin, remember that? So we were wondering if it was that looked into, anything like going down to that little gap, or not little gap, it was a significant gap. We had to step down to see the water cooler area.
I don't know what you're talking about. However, I don't water test that entire roof. I didn't go outside with you guys.
Obviously, this is something that is being looked into and there's not an immediate solution, but you're in contact with the tenant, so, you know, I think that's the most you
You're
can.
trying.
I think one thing that I would like, is that, you know, there was a spreadsheet created that I started, for the last meeting that Mark put in the information. I didn't get to see it unfortunately before the meeting. I was able to see it after the meeting. Because I believe I had received it the same day. And so what I did was I reorganized it and made it a little bit simpler for things that are outstanding. And I know that you're writing a letter. You wrote this letter
And
that we
address
received yesterday.
every item that was on the spreadsheet.
Yes, and I think what I would like is that we receive another letter, but also that spreadsheet gives, because one of the things we talked about as a committee was short-term and long-term resolutions and timeframes, right? And so that's, I don't know if you happen to see the document I created, the spreadsheet. It's in the Dropbox, I believe. Jesse, is it in the Dropbox?
Yes.
It is the one that I created. It's short, it's sweet, it's simple. I will get you access or I will send you the document.
Just to be clear, like the Dropbox is for the board, so
Oh,
folks outside of the
You'll have
board
to send
don't.
a
okay.
copy.
Yes, I will send you the document. I thought you saw it. Okay, I forgot about that little fun fact. I think having that also completed would be helpful. It's just easy to look at. This is the building, this is the issue. Short time frame or long time frame resolution, time frame it can be expected, and anything else you want to add.
There's several items that came in on that spreadsheet that have been completed. since
Right,
2020.
so the document that I created is
Okay.
things that are outstanding.
Okay,
Because really, what we need to be discussing here is not things from a year ago, it's things that are currently outstanding
Okay.
that we need to address moving forward.
okay,
Okay, and so I think another thing that was in discussion between, another member brought it to my attention, and I thought it was a great idea. Because of this issue, it was suggested to me, and we'll be discussing it as a committee down the line, it was suggested to me that we need to have some kind of criteria when tenants come to the committee to discuss issues that they need resolutions for with their landlords. So we will be discussing that at a committee sometime down the line. Did you want to say anything else, Katie? Because I think I cut you off. Oh, no, it was Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin, you raised your hand.
Unless Katie.
No.
No, it was you.
Nothing, I was just.
What was it that you wanted to ask or mention?
Ryan, how you doing?
hello.
Thanks for the letter and follow-up. We appreciate the walkthrough that we did on 2 days, West 53rd and on 30th Street.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that. Just bullet point, but most of this has been covered. I presume you obviously track, whether it's through the front desk or with the new system that'll eventually come on, you track when there's any issues, right?
Yes,
And you're gonna look into the period of time where the front desk is not covered, that down period, nominal though it may be, but you're gonna look at options and try to back.
absolutely, yes.
But going back to Rachel's point, and not to belabor this, but where we were above that tenant's apartments. There was and I used to live in the top floor of a walk-up. I got quite a lot when I was younger. Not saying that's the situation here. There was almost like a gap. You could pull up something in the gap. So you never gonna take a look at that. And if need be, I'd put it. I just like. But on the whole, I would think that, would just say, please continue to be responsive back to your tenants, which as you appear to be, and to be transparent. And thank you for the follow-up coming back to the board and addressing issues that were brought up.
Any further questions?
Can I, sort of, I just want to ask just a real general question or two. I didn't realize that CHDC had 75 buildings. Of those 75, off the top of your head, what would you guess the average age of the entire portfolio would be? Are they all 100 years old or some of them newer? I thought I knew, I had a mental image of CHDC buildings and they're all marvelous, by the way.
We
But
have
age-wise,
tenants
pardon?
ranging, I would say middle,
Somewhere between 100 and 0 and 50, yeah. Right, guess
25 to 60.
Okay, can.
Asking about the buildings.
I think
Tenants.
the buildings. I'm sorry.
Not tenants.
The age of the building.
Okay, I'm sorry, I probably didn't hear that.
No, okay, start over
She's
here.
talking about the building stock.
The buildings.
Talking about 100.
Who has a portfolio of tenants? No, the buildings themselves are of a variety. How big is, I'm just trying to get an idea of the variety of them
We
and
have
their age.
some older that were built in 1900s.
Yeah.
We've rehabbed,
Uh-huh.
got renovations, and we have our newest building was completed in 2019.
Ah, great. Also, in terms of the heat and the variation in temperature that we hear about, are all of your buildings gas-fired boiler and one pipe, or are there oil-fired furnaces, or what are the, is
Yes.
there, pardon?
Yes,
All gas?
we have one that's oil.
Okay, have also, in terms of size, how many of them roughly are over 25,000 square feet? And therefore, all these local laws are are applicable? Do you have a rough idea? Because
Probably about 5 or 6.
5 or 6, okay.
Okay,
You know.
she answered your question. I'm trying to move on.
All right.
Mark. I know you wanted to say something, ask something, share something, please. Mark?
I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
Yeah, I thought your hand was up.
Oh, no, my hand wasn't up.
Right, okay, I was wondering, Mark, do you have any questions or
Oh,
comment?
I thought you.
My hand wasn't up, but yeah, no, like I said before, I think I'm mainly just in a listening role for today. I'm going to relay all this information back to tenants, and I'm sure the tenants, of course, would love to hear things like hear and see things like the 12-page letter from CHDC, and then respond, yeah, about what they're seeing on the ground and what their needs are.
I think it might also be useful to share with the tenants the letter we drafted, when the full board votes on it. Next week. There was one more thing. When are you coming back so we can follow up on things?
Maria, I just have a question.
Yes, please.
After we did West 49th Street with the guy from New Amsterdam who could not answer anything, we never had him come back for a follow-up. And I just want to know why it's necessary for this level of issues to have a follow-up at a committee meeting when it could just be done offline. It sounds like things are in motion, they have a plan, and that's not what we got from from other problem landlords. So I just don't feel that it's something that we need to be demanding a follow-up at every single meeting for, if we're not doing that for buildings that
Have much more serious
Yes.
issues.
with like active drug dealing and people being threatened with knives in their building.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. And I think for what you're speaking about, we do need to have them come back. The reason why I would argue we need to have CHDC come back, quite frankly, is because we need to hold them accountable, I believe, because the executive director is Joe Restuccia. He is part of the committee. I don't think we should be treating him differently or less accountable.
I fully understand that, but if this were any other landlord other than Joe Restuccia, would it have come to the committee? I've had leaks in my apartment that I've dealt with my landlord with. I never called HPD. I've had security issues in my building. I've never called HPD. I deal with the landlord. So we have tenants who are living in squalor with legitimate top of the worst landlord list owners. And those we give attention to. Sometimes we're not even jumping on it immediately. The community board might not get involved until like 6 years down the line. So it feels like I understand wanting to have equity, but it feels like we're putting an outsized importance on these issues because of who the players are in it. And that feels like it does a disservice to everyone. We have tenants here from NYCHA who are living in conditions far worse than what's being described by these CHDC tenants. And they have to sit here and listen to us debating and demanding accountability. Why are we not demanding accountability from NYCHA and all of this stuff and getting related to fix these things? It just feels like it's not worth our time as volunteers right now to take up more time on this. And let's move on to the NYCHA and deal with the bigger issues we have.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate your passion. And your frustration, because you don't see it now from me, but I've had a lot of frustration in dealing with this specific issue. It has not been simple. It has not been easy. And so, yes, I understand what you're saying. I still believe that CHDC needs to come back in a couple of months. And I do think we need to make some changes at this committee about who can come to committee and discuss their issues with us. And I said that a few minutes ago. I can explain it more another time, but it is almost 7:30, so I would like to move on.
We can come back. When do you want us to come back?
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
Yes, why don't we'll figure it out?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Succinctly,
what you're suggesting, tell me if I'm wrong, that this committee creates some kind of standard,
Threshold.
Yes.
standard threshold, that if a building, tenants, whatever, have issues, that it has to meet those preconditions.
Yes.
Otherwise, the committee could find itself just dealing with block after block, building after
Yes.
building.
We wouldn't be the first committee on CB4 to do something like that. Other committees have done things like that. So, yes,
That's a reasonable suggestion.
it is reasonable. Thank you, Orion from CHDC. Mark, thank you for being here and staying.
JD has his hand up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark, for being here. And we will be in touch. Ryan, we will be in touch. We are going to move on to the next agenda item, but JD, did you want to ask something?
I believe I'm a member of this committee. I'd like to speak, Maria.
Yes, I
wanna
just
agree-
called on you and I recognized you, JD. Please, can you
I
speak?
want to agree 100% with what Katie just said. Let us not forget that at the last meeting, somebody sent the Post newspaper to this meeting. There's something going on here, which I think is elevating this discussion beyond what we should be undertaking.
I agree
So,
with you
I-
100%, JD.
I think in a couple of months, if you want to have them come back, I think that's reasonable.
Yes. I still agree with you 100%. Rachel?
Thank you, Maria, and thank you everyone for speaking up. So I also wanted to address that. I don't think it is our community board's job to hear out only the gravest of the issues. I think it is our job to hear out the community concerns and agree with Katie that we wouldn't come to the community board for small maintenance issues that are discrete on a day-to-day basis, but I think the issue that we are dealing with here are more pervasive, persistent ones that lasted for several years, as reported by the tenants. So I think we are upholding our role as the community board to hear them out. I think at the early stages of it, it is important to have and uphold that dialogue for all parties. And I think we are serving as a useful, helpful forum for both parties, not just for the tenants, but also for CHDC. We are helping them, form and maintain that positive relationship with the tenants and also abide by the laws. So I think we are doing everyone not a disservice, but service as part of our role as CB.
Thank you, Rachel. And when the issue comes up at committee regarding like the threshold, we're going to have the standards, whatever it is, whatever word you want to use, we will discuss that more. So
What's one?
I don't want to have that discussion right now. Roberta, do you want, if it's about that, I want to say that for now.
I just wanted to clarify, so there was a letter, because we motioned and voted for that letter last meeting, there is nothing to do regarding that letter at this time, and it will simply go to the full board, is that
It's going to
our
full board.
understanding?
Yeah.
And
It's just the uniqueness, the
Yeah.
fact that this meeting fell before the full board.
So normally we would have committee meeting and then a full board meeting and vote on the letter. This time, we had a committee meeting, and before we got to our full board, we're already having another committee meeting, so that's what.
Could I just propose and I do think this will be genuinely friendly amendment to both thank CHDC for, coming and speaking to these issues and then appending their like effective response and to say that, we, for accountability purposes, we, thank HDC and hope that the tenants both view this letter, as an HCC and that to the extent that there are continuing issues or commitments in that letter that HCC follows up on those.
So I wrote down thanks CHDC and HCC and follow up on commitments.
And attach the letter that CHDC provided to us with updates. Just basically to refresh the letter so it has the most up-to-date information. Because we're basing it on information from a month ago and some of that stuff has since been resolved.
Okay.
Are you open to some comments on the draft? Is that draft letter?
Can we not?
Not right now. You can send that to me. You can tell me that.
Do them right now.
We don't need to do it at committee level. But is there a motion to what?
No. I mean, I don't
think
there's.
We don't need
it for a motion.
We
It
don't?
was just a friendly
Oh.
amendment. I think for
Okay.
accepting it, I think everyone accepts it.
Yeah, you did say that,
Yeah.
friendly amendment.
I
Thank you.
suspected it would be friendly.
Yeah. That was my intention. I forgot to communicate that. Thank you.
There's one person in the public that has had their hand up from the beginning. I believe they're the second item, but since they had their hand up, I just want to make sure that they're.
Yeah, we can ask if they're here or. I can't see the name.
Murat? Do you want to speak on this topic or are you here for the second item?
Murat, you're on mute.
Yeah, Murat, you're on mute if you're speaking. Okay, going once. Going twice. All right, I'm gonna drop your hand and I'll move you back, and when we get to the end of the committee, the public session of the second item, we'll bring you back.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Murat. Are you here?
Oh,
you have your hand
yes,
raised for the first
I-
item or the second?
Yeah, I mean, I just raised my hand that I show I'm joining. So the thing is, in our building, we did the letter already present to the mark, and I just waiting to solve this issue. But the other issue, when I hear the other buildings issues, it's really big issues. I mean, and just put an order everything, and hopefully everything will be soon solved. And
Yes.
we
Thank
received the electronic payment later like 2 years ago. I paid the rent online, for example. I mean, since almost 2 years, it's not happened. So my biggest concern in our building is the door issue is a big problem.
I'm sorry, Murat, you said
Yeah.
you spoke to Mark already?
Yes.
Okay, good. So Mark already is aware and he would have it in the document. Can you just tell me what building you live in?
353 West 30th.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
It is in the letter.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
All right. And we are good to go to the next item.
Let me raise my hand for a sec. I'm going to ask that as we continue the discussion going forward, I'd be recognized at the next meeting, talk about the broader issue, which is not really about repairs, but about where this entire effort has come from. I'm ready to talk about that. There's an underlying issue here that has nothing to do with repairs. Joe, can we talk about that?
So, yeah. You
I'm not
wanna
talking,
talk.
I'm not talking about.
So the next item on the agenda that we want to talk about today is the NYCHA proposed project. And what we want to, I'm gonna let you frame it, but one of the things that's important.
I'm sorry, do you have a microphone because she's having a hard time hearing?
You gotta talk a little bit louder.
No, we're not.
And we also ask everyone to come a little closer.
If you come a little closer.
Might be helpful. We ain't gonna
Could
bite.
you hear,
I can hear her. She's having a hard time.
she had, Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just come closer if you're not
We
here.
want to even closer. We're not,
I'm good.
She said she can hear me. Okay.
Thank you.
So one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight was the claims versus facts regarding the proposed project. And I can't remember the second thing.
we're framing it, okay?
You frame it.
So, we are starting, we hope, a new. We're trying to set the table to move to a different spot. You're talking about Chelsea NYCHA. For those of you who were in this room, last week, there was a DIS hearing and emotions ran high, and they should, about people's homes being demolished and what that meant and how people felt about these proposals. It was, and tonight, we're gonna say, I want to know for this discussion, we are starting the discussion here among the committee members. And this really is going to be a much more informal part of the meeting. And as we talk further, we're going to ask people to give their comments and join in, all right? The problem that our community has really endured with this Chelsea NYCHA proposal, and I said this about 2 months ago at the Chelsea Land Use Committee, we're in a fog of war. We cannot get anyone in the community clarity of information, understanding who was in charge, who was doing what. Again, we're not recognizing people talk about, no, it'd be as we go forward. Who is doing what, why decisions are made, and it really starts going back to the entire process that went wrong. The community got together with the NYCHA tenants, broader stakeholders, community board, all the elected officials, did an 18-month process under a group that was called the Chelsea NYCHA Working Group, and came up with a plan to do renovation of all the 2,056 apartments in Chelsea NYCHA. And that plan also included a few what are called infill buildings, meaning building buildings on parking lots, things like that, moving parking around, but in both campuses. And that was specifically to help make the plan work financially. Underlying the whole issue, which we now have opened up again, was the fact that we sat in these rooms, had these meetings, and it was as part of NYCHA's doing citywide, converting buildings from Section 9 to Section 8 RAD Pact. And the whole reason for that, which took a long time to understand, was that traditional public housing subsidies that come from the government have a specific prohibition on the public housing authority or a private owner working with the public housing authority on taking out a mortgage to improve apartments. I will tell you, I've worked in housing for 45 years. Until I sat in those meetings, I never understood that clearly. So we had all these meetings. It was agreed that there would be this conversion. However, it was not going to be like the rest of the conversions in the city to Section 8. It was going to have a whole series of additional requirements on top of it. Number one, all the rights that people have, tenant rights under Section 9, were going to be imported into the new Section 8 RAD Pact deal. And it would be written, and it would be detailed, and it would be specific, and we'd lay them out in that document. Number two, it was not going to be just new bath and new kitchen, keep all the old plumbing and wiring and the crap behind the walls. It was going to be major replacement of all electrical systems, plumbing, heating. And I know this because I sat in those rooms, and I personally, on behalf of the community, negotiated increased renovation in every goddamn building, down to the heating system, where we were going to have everything done, but you would end up with an old heating system that is inefficient and not working. And we were then given specifically by NYCHA, here's the maximum new Section 8 rents that can be charged, right? And what is it? They actually gave us very low rents. Well, that meant there was not a lot of ability to have a large mortgage, relative to one thing or the other, right? However, the key part of the plan was that nobody would have to move. Work would be, the apartments would be renovated with people in place. And this would create a stable environment for NYCHA long-term. And the only time someone would have to move would be temporary if the apartment was so bad or there was some kind of work, you'd move from building A to building B and come back. That was it. And that's the plan that went into a document called a request for proposals that was put out to the public, and developers were able to now respond to those proposals. And 3 developers responded, 3 teams. How this works is this teams of developers. And the other unique thing is we got the tenant associations in Elliott-Chelsea and in Fulton to be part of the selection process of those developers. But I will tell you, from the point the RFP went out and the responses came back, no one in the community, except for NYCHA and the tenant associations and an organization citywide called Citizens Housing and Planning Council, participated in any of those discussions, any of those deliberations, any of those considerations, nothing. And then the project went silent. And then, like you, our community board and everyone else in the community found out via a press release that the plan was changed. And now the plan was a demolition plan and new construction. And that was put out at first saying this was at the choice of the tenants. And none of us understood what that meant because none of us were involved in that and we can understand what it was. So since that time, the information that this community board has received has been contradictory, inaccurate, it has been incorrect, it has changed on multiple times. And I will say something else that I have seen personally here that I've never seen before. Just getting information from NYCHA or the developer has been a struggle. We would be promised to get information this month, nothing happens. This week, nothing happens. The community board entered, when do we start our meetings, Jesse, with NYCHA and related? Sometime in the fall last year, right?
Sounds
right. Right, roughly in the fall. And the community board put together a task force and started to meet, we thought, every 2 weeks with NYCHA and related to get information. Meetings were postponed, meetings were canceled, we asked for information, it was not delivered. They would make a commitment, they would deliver information on the next meeting, and it would not be delivered. So I'm going to talk for a moment from my personal point of view, not the board's point of view. It is my absolute reflection that information has been either withheld or misdirected deliberately. Because I have never seen a project of this scope where we cannot, that these agencies are not producing information, that a developer related who the community board has worked with for 25 years is not putting out accurate information or any information whatsoever. So we've done something first.
I just want to add a little bit of context to what Joe is saying is that,
Mary, can you speak up?
oh, I'm speaking too low. I'm sorry. Thank you. If you can't hear me, just remind me. Just for a little bit of context, what Joe is saying about the lack of transparency. I was not on the working group, but I have been the co-chair of Housing, Health and Human Services for prior to COVID. And there has been a persistent or a consistent pattern of that being an issue. For me, that has been the major issue to me, the lack of transparency here. We had a meeting, and this is just to add and give a little color that it's not just community board members saying it, and it's not just him and I who have said it. Other members of the board have said it as well, who are in these regular meetings. It is a feeling that we all have. We just had a meeting recently last week with the executive director of the Hudson Guild. He even said he has felt, and he does feel, it is incredibly frustrating, quote unquote, what is happening with this project in terms of the lack of transparency and being not unclear about who's making the final decision here and where we are in the process. Right? It's not clear. And so what we would like to do is make it more clear so that people aren't afraid and aren't as anxious about what is happening. And also, I would say to empower you all, when you have knowledge, you have power, right? That's the truth.
And so what we're going to talk first about claims versus facts, but that's not the major part of our discussion. In the community board leadership, we have asked for our elected officials to convene a group to meet, tenants, community members, whatever. We've asked for this to happen with NYCHA. We've asked for the developer to do it. It is clear that nobody is taking that initiative. And what's happening is because of the ongoing lack of response, and we get partial response or something comes through, that the project just seems to sort of move ahead as if it's a done deal. And I sat in the hearing last week, and it is very, very frustrating. It is not a done deal by any stretch. It is not something that people should, when, I forget your name, she stood up 2 weeks ago and said that HOU had been to her door and told her that she had to move because the project was starting.
What is your name again? I don't.
I'm sorry, I forget your name, I apologize.
And I live.
Alexa. Alexander.
In senior building.
Oh, if you can stand up, come in where the X is, I think people can see you. Otherwise, I
Oh,
can't
thank
see you on the camera, I'm sorry. Right where the X is on the floor.
I'm scared of the camera.
Ah, okay.
Because the people call to me.
Right there,
like
John.
shit.
Right there.
Oh, she doesn't know it.
Alright.
So I heard this story 2 weeks ago. If you give us a short version of
Short.
what you said.
Should I?
No, you face forward to the camera. You're behind the camera. No, you're right, you're right. You're fine. You're right there. Okay. All right, you're all.
No, it's okay.
People will see.
So much good for you.
Okay.
Oh.
Because it's very disrespectful.
Oh, she means we're back to the
I
audience.
don't.
No, I
face
understand. You're
people.
fine.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I waited for this apartment 10.5 years to coming to Manhattan and for the senior building. What happened, maybe 3 years ago, we were told, pack your stuff to other people, pack because you are moving us. Or we'll give you boxes. So I personally said, oh, I can take boxes from the outside, from the garbage people. No, we'll give you, but be prepared. It's just not me, other people who are packing. I still have packs and stuff, and from example, from neighbors from 8C, 8th floor, 8C, B, the same. But anyway, recently, it was like 2 months ago. I was going to the doctor's office 2 months, about 2 months. And Mr. Marco from HOU approached me downstairs and he said to me, Alexandra, we want to take a survey from you. I said, survey? What kind of survey? Oh, how we doing the job, you know, and just couple questions. So I said, no, I'm sorry, but I'm going to the doctor's office, but on that time I will give you a call and I will discuss. And then I said, but I don't want survey, I want to stay here because you promised to different stories 3 years ago, almost 4, and now different stories. And really, not just me. I am not just thinking about me, about other people too. The people 90, 91, they like this. The Chinese people don't understand, but just not about me. We are human beings. So he said to me, everybody has to be moved. So be prepared. Don't think about other people. Think about yourself.
2 months ago.
And
That was 2 months ago, you're saying?
about 2 months ago. And but before I will finish with him, but what happened before? So I said to him, I want to stay here. Oh, because before they were showing people's apartments in 420 next to the main office, to the management office, but I was not there. So, and couple days later,
people were talking about those apartments. I wanted to see, so I called to HOU and they sent me Henry. His name is Henry. I don't know his last name. And I went to see the apartment next to the main office. Oh, it's beautiful apartment. I said, oh, it's nice, you know, I like it, but it was smaller, but anyway, I'm alone. But I said, I want to stay here. Alexandra, you must understand. Everybody has to go.
And you have to go by when?
Listen, so I said, no, we are staying here. So he says, no. Ending of June, of July, beginning in August. We are going to move everybody from the senior citizen building. So I said, but before you told that will be in June. Now you're saying in August? Oh, because we didn't have a contract yet, but now we have it. The contract that, you know, between NYCHA and, so I said, now we have it. But last week I was on the meeting here, and they said, people said, we don't have a contract yet, nothing is done.
The people from NYCHA said that.
No, we over here on the meeting,
Yeah.
you know, yes,
NYCHA, right.
on NYCHA, because they were 3 minutes and you could not. So it's mixed feelings. And I told, on the phone, I called to Mark and I said, I don't want any survey. I am not going nowhere. I saw the apartment. Oh, you saw the apartment, you like it. I said, yes, but I stay here. That's it. And no contract, no more feelings. I am not leaving in August. Oh, you have to decide. We are forcing you guys to be moved. That is true stories. I don't lie. Amen. My husband and my son got it. And
So they said we're forcing you to move. End of June?
Everybody has.
Or end of July? End of July?
No, they told July and before was June, but now July, ending of July, beginning of August. And ending of August will be closed every day. Here.
Alexandra,
Thank you.
I have to cut you off.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that, because we need to hear what is being said
That is
out
true
in
stories.
public, right? So I just want to, so thank you. You know, you can have a seat.
Thank you
I'll come to
very
the second.
much.
So,
Thank you.
so what I want to note here is that this is the issue. We use this as an illustration of information being told to one set of tenants or one group. But we know that from a public hearings that happened last week, that the process is not approved and the document that we testified on, the draft environmental impact statement, is the document that has to go through final approval in order for the federal government to act. And that is anticipated to be approved sometime, maybe this summer. We don't have a clear answer. Our community board was set to meet with the elected officials, NYCHA, and the developer tomorrow. And that meeting took about 3 or 4 months to set up. It was canceled today, yesterday, all right? So what I want to say here is that
As usual.
I want to do a very little bit of the claims versus the facts, but I want to move us away from just being against everything into a different point of view. We need, as a community, if our elected officials are not going to act, if NYCHA is not going to act on this, and if clearly the developer is not interested in acting, to create a process where we can work together, say what we want as a community. And that means the NYCHA tenants, the block associations, the community organizations, everyone who is involved. So we say what we want, because this is a troubled project. And anyone who tells me over and over that this is the only way to do anything is not speaking the truth.
But in any of your lives, when you've had a problem, is there usually only one solution? Usually there's more than one way to get to a goal or to a solution.
So I'm gonna go through this list and then you can speak, okay? So Jesse, this is so hard to read, right?
Well, oh, you mean your letter?
Yes.
Well, you created it.
It's not a letter, no, I'm saying, no, it's because of the light. Could we,
I mean, dim the light.
yeah, can we dim the lights maybe a little bit?
Increase the size.
No, we did this today.
In the drop.
No, it's today. I'm gonna pass.
Did it eventually go to the drop?
Tonight. And by the way, it's merely a draft, and it's about getting discussion going.
It's good.
It's good, okay. So we thought as a draft, this is not a final document, no one was adopting anything.
Yeah.
Just to put out for a moment, the claims that have been made, and then what's actually happened in the fact. So
Can it be shared online so those of us online can see it?
it's on, it's,
Sorry, hold on.
oh, he didn't put it on screen, I'm sorry, throw it on the screen, Katie,
Give
sorry.
me a second, Katie. Is that better?
Can everyone
Not
see it
yet.
online?
Oh, now we can
Okay.
see it.
Right. So, first claim, NYCHA administered a vote for the tenants to select demolition or rehabilitation. In fact, the tenants were issued a survey to evaluate alternative development options. It took about 6 months to get that to be a fact. We were told it was a vote,
11 months.
right? The next thing is the majority of tenants voted for demolition. There are 2,056 apartments in Chelsea NYCHA. From those apartments, 969 residents participated, or about 29% of the total population. Of those 29% that completed the survey, 57% or 552 tenants said they preferred new construction. Therefore, that is a majority of the minority. 552 people, not 552 apartments, said they preferred demolition.
However, the total number of tenants is over 3,000.
It's over 3,000.
So that would drop down that 50,
Oh,
that would drop down one of those.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like 20% approximately.
there's, I believe it's 3,388.
Yeah, that's 16%.
16.8%, perfect. The point of it, that's why it's a draft document. We just want to sort of put out like, here's what was claimed. The majority of tenants voted, and it wasn't a vote, it was a survey. Demolition then the next claim was demolition and replacement will be a faster project. New construction will take at least 6 years. And rehabilitation of the existing buildings and most other NYCHA developments have been completed in 24 months, 2 years. And these are not 1 or 2 projects. This is across the city. Next is phase 1 demolition and construction, we took this from a letter, will begin in April of 24. Yes.
Jesse, can you scroll?
Sorry. With the first tenant move-ins happening in December of 26. The project is currently undergoing an environmental review and will not receive project approval before January of 26. Rehabilitation costs rose from originally $366 million to over $1.4 billion. They pretty much tripled. But new construction would only cost $1.3 billion. That is what was put out by Related to the community board and by NYCHA. The latest construction estimate is $1.9 billion, and that does not account for the tariffs that the federal government is putting, which are going to have a huge impact on a project like this. The buildings are structurally unsound, and I was told they're falling apart. We went into the RFPs themselves, and the RFPs the developers did actual evaluations of the buildings, and they said a limited need for structural work with limited money budgeted for exterior structural improvements. So that claim that buildings were structurally unsound was not a fact. Building rehabilitation cannot be completed in place because of asbestos and lead paint contaminant remediation. Asbestos has been removed in NYCHA developments across the city with tenants staying in place with protective measures. Levels of lead contamination have not been disclosed. And Edenwald houses, very similar to Chelsea NYCHA, are going a full renovation with rad packs with those same conditions. One thing that has, for some reason, just really hit me as a housing practitioner and someone who renovates and builds, is that the elevators cannot be kept because elevators cannot fit stretchers. Elevators for new buildings are required to fit, next page, sorry. Yeah. Elevators for new buildings are required to fit stretchers, but existing buildings are not required to meet this code. And in fact, tens of thousands of buildings with New York City elevators are replaced with existing size elevator cabs. Further, stretchers tilt up on purpose to fit into elevators. It's one of these things that I've heard in meeting after meeting by individuals, by NYCHA, by related, that the elevators don't work. I cannot believe that somebody would hang their hat on that flimsy hook. Renovation will not replace the heating system. The Chelsea NYCHA RFP calls for installation of all new heating systems. Renovation will not replace the plumbing and heating electrical systems. We don't want just stuff stuck on the walls, a new kitchen. The Chelsea NYCHA RFP scope of work called for new plumbing, water and waste stacks, and all new electrical wiring. Why do I know this? Besides reading in the RFP, because we negotiated it in to make sure we got a full renovation here. NYCHA would only allow related to the 30% of the interim repairs. One of the normal processes that happens when there's a rad tax arrangement is that the developer comes in and starts to take over the property and do repairs in the meantime until you get to the full renovation of the building. After Community Board 4 really pushed back hard on that, along with the two tenant associations, NYCHA now is allowed related to do 70% of the interim repairs. They said it could not be done and they changed their mind. It was a claim, and now the fact is something different. Another claim, by August 2025, the renamed Meanwhile Plan, which is interim repairs, now called the Bridge Plan, will close over 4,800 open work orders across two campuses. They give us a report every month. And as of March 25, only 178 work orders have been closed to date by related. The senior tenants in the Elliott-Chelsea building need to move out of the senior building in July. We heard about this just now. The DIS is not final and the project has not been approved. Yet we have workers hired, we have HOU hired by related telling people something that's not true. Market rate housing will only be developed to the degree necessary to fund shortfalls in the whole budget to rebuild Chelsea NYCHA. The master development agreement says that market rate and mixed income housing will exceed budget needs and fund NYCHA projects elsewhere in the city. That's exactly what it says. So claim, fact is different. And then the last thing is, there is no other feasible development plan for Chelsea NYCHA. RAD Pact rehabilitation and conversion has been completed or is in construction at 138 NYCHA locations across the city, which includes 67,000 apartments. I took that information right from the NYCHA website. It is very frustrating for those of us who have been in our community for quite some time to have all these claims listed, and these are not all of these, just the general draft. We want to sort of lay out that happens month after month on this project. And in fact, the claims are not factual, yet the project moves ahead with the assent of many folks. So I'd like to say for a moment, forget about what we call claims and facts or lies and facts. And I've got to be blunt about that because it's really bothered me when I went to these DIS hearings and heard senior citizens have such incredible anxiety about what's happening and not happening. It's as if no one has empathy that these are not just a bunch of lots, empty lots. These are a bunch of buildings full of people's homes. And I will say, people who do well, people who do poorly, everywhere in between. There's piles of people who have 2 jobs, 3 jobs, extended families. And the buildings and the apartments are in crappy shape, some of them, or in very good shape. And it ranges like any other building in the city of New York. But we know there's a lot of bad conditions because NYCHA just did not deal with this for decades and decades. So we wanted to start a discussion today that the community board will lead and invite different groups into this discussion as to what we want. And we don't have anything written like this. We wanted to start talking about it first among the committee members, and then starting to come up with, like we did in the Chelsea NYCHA working group, a plan of what our community wants, what the Chelsea NYCHA tenants want, and how to balance all these needs. And it's not a plan that is like, it's a plan that's rooted in a reality of what people actually really want here. So we ask you to participate in this and talk about it, starting the committee, because we need to dispel the phrase fog of war. Is all about, there's so many things going on, you really can't see what's truly happening. And given the fact that we have all these claims and the facts are entirely different. It's important just to start again, while we, at the same time, continue to respond and deal with things as the process moves ahead. But it means that people come together. When people come together, we normally get somewhere. So I want to just start.
Well,
Great,
I would prefer if the audience could speak first.
I want to go back and forth.
Oh,
I want to go back and forth. I want to get.
but she had her hand.
I'm gonna go to you next, yeah. I wanna go back and forth because that's the whole point. It's not just the tenants, it's everybody in the community and all the stakeholders that are part of this. So you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Stand on the X
No problem.
and say your name.
Okay, my name is Mary Hicks. I am from the Fulton houses. And I came up here because what's going up here and what's going down there is two different things.
Okay.
I was informed that Chelsea Elliott does not have a full tenant association. I don't know, I'm just.
No, good.
No, go ahead.
No.
Okay, they said that they don't have a full tenant association, so I know Ms. Waters was the tenant association, they voted her out. So then who, I don't, it's Renee something. Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Well,
No, wait.
That's it forward because, yeah.
Okay.
Because we
So
gotta
then
get-
it's Renee.
Yes.
I don't know that. Okay, so then who's the vice? Lisa? Okay, so you have full staff.
No, I do not, because NYCHA botched the elections.
Oh, see.
So what's happened clearly here, remember, in the tenant association elections, NYCHA conducts them, right? And, no, right, but they had, right? And what happened here is, and I actually raised this to the council member just yesterday. For some reason, they will not certify this election. Both elections in Fulton. Incorrect, I'm sorry.
That's why I'm struck by.
Okay,
You need to come up.
then, can you switch for a second and then,
Okay, let me
no,
say.
you're on, go ahead, finish.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, it was brought to my attention that they didn't have, you don't have a full tenant association.
Ready, plain fact,
Right.
not true, it's being fixed. Go ahead.
Okay, it's being fixed. So what I was told is because there is not a full board and that they can't have meetings, Mr. Adams is essence related, it's not just related, it's essence related.
It's actually related essence, trust me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Jamal Adams is the head. Now, the vote came from up here,
Mhm.
right? They had the majority of the vote saying tear it down. They came to us, they said, Chelsea said, we're not going for this one building, we want it down. So, we did the survey. Together, it was 9. So, we went on tours to buildings that would be something similar to what we was gonna get. Okay, fine. So, we are way ahead. Okay? Our 19th Street is going down. Now, I'm very.
That's
upset-
actually a proposal. It's not
Very
a fact.
proposal, but I'm saying it's in the works. Okay?
It's a proposal and it's not approved.
Okay, but it's in the works. Okay, we picked out,
It's still a proposal.
okay, we picked out what we want in the buildings. And what I feel sadly about is the building that they're after. It's not right. No, HOU has no right to go in there and tell these people that they have to move. Because Mr. Adams has not come up here and addressed anything, and it's not right.
The access has been here.
I'm sorry, you're saying, it's not right that, in this,
Jamal
you're talking
Adams-
about the Chelsea edition?
Jamal Adams is the head of it,
Right.
and he has not come up here and addressed the community.
Mar Adams has been up here multiple times and told people multiple stories.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Right, that's
We're
right.
not on the same page.
Right.
There's 2 different things going on there, and it's not fair to Chelsea.
Right.
Elliott, it's not fair to you guys. I know, right, but I'm just saying.
Right, in terms of
we're supposed to
general.
be one. Same thing, I'm not saying, as Deborah listened.
So, excuse me,
All right.
and your name again?
My name is Mary Hicks, but I'm just saying that I don't feel it's fair.
Yeah.
That they're not being informed. They're not telling what's going on. They don't have you don't have your opinion, and it's not fair. Why he can't come up here and really address it with city officials that come to our meeting? It's not fair.
Yes.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
agree,
Mary.
thank you.
Renee, could you just speak to the issue of the tenant association?
Can you
for a
come up?
second? Just because you can clarify.
Yeah,
exactly what it is. I thought it was.
Yeah, I
No,
thought it wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, wait, the camera.
So how this went is NYCHA botched the election. I specifically asked them to not deal with the election according to the 964 regulations, 964.130. NYCHA is supposed to monitor the elections, monitor.
Not conducted.
They are not to conduct the elections. Now I have the ability to make sure they only conduct the elections.
Monitor.
No, so yes, monitor the elections. So that's what they will do. They will monitor. You have a third party that can actually deal with the election process. So they botched our elections. They specifically, yeah.
Well,
Wait a second.
keep talking, sorry.
Okay, so according to our bylaws, there's no such thing as, they should have said the vice president for Chelsea and the vice president for Elliott. Instead, they said the first vice president and the second vice president. Who becomes the first vice president is predicated on the what? On the residence of the president. The people who ran for president
Or the
all
location.
came from Elliott.
Right.
Therefore, the only person who was able to become the
Elliott-Chelsea,
first vice president is from Chelsea. They dropped the people who were from Elliott, who had nominated themselves, who were nominated for first vice president. That was me, that was Salinas. They did not offer a remedy, which would have been put those people into the second vice presidency. On the election notice, they say it's a vacancy. When it came to,
Can I stop for 1 second? So for the committee, just so everybody knows, we refer to this as Elliott-Chelsea, but it is literally developed different times and their bylaws say one member must come from the Elliott portion, other member from the Chelsea portion.
so,
That's why she said they are four developments.
Because
Right.
there's the addition and there's the.
right, Elliott, Chelsea,
Joe, can I
Chelsea
ask-
edition.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Right.
How's monitoring elections defined in the bylaws?
No, it's not defined in the bylaw. It's defined in the 964 regulations, which govern public housing.
And how's it defined? How's monitoring defined in the regulations?
Monitor is, they get to watch, they don't conduct. You can bring in a
It
third
says
party.
that.
That's what we wanted. That's what I had specifically asked them to do when I was running. I specifically asked them not to deal with the election process. They did not listen. They did it. They botched it from the nomination. So there was constant emails back and forth from getting the times wrong to me having to correct them on what they said of the vice presidency, to which now we're at the stage of. Then on the sergeant of arms, they said first sergeant of arms and second sergeant of arms. Our bylaw says sergeant of arms, parentheses 2, doesn't say first and second. On the election notice, they put everyone under one thing, just sergeant of arms. So then we came to the next problem, since on what we had to fill out, it said first and second, and because they did everyone under sergeant of arms, that becomes another problem. They wouldn't certify it.
What is the path forward now?
The path forward is we are now dealing with this process. So we've gotten to the sergeant of arms, we now have 4. What we're now, and then of course, there was the fact that the secretary and treasurer then resigned. So they sent their resignation in January 22nd. 29th. I didn't receive it until March 3rd. Another problem. So basically, I've been fighting through all these problems. We've gotten to the fact that we now have 4. On May 13th, there will be a nomination process. Every floor of each building, there is notice that there will be an election.
For everybody all over again?
4, no. 4. 4, secretary, treasurer, second vice president. I do not know who told you that. They outright lied to you. If that's what they told you, they lied.
Renee, who's the third party running it?
It's going to be housing conservation coordinators.
Right, we know them, obviously.
Right. So if anyone needs to know, call up the 964s. You will be able to see it. I've also printed it the same way I printed the bylaws, the same way we had to go uptown to the neighborhood administrator to get the bylaws, the same way I then went again, the same way we had to ask them twice because these bylaws are from 1999. So whoever says we have not been having meetings, they lie. We've been having meetings February, we've been having meetings March, we've been having meetings April.
Yeah.
So tell the people to stop lying while we coming
And
over
our-
there
and
and
our-
talk to them to
And our
their.
community board members have attended some of those.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we are in the process. HUD minimum is 5.
So this should be sorted out by May 13th, 14th, 15th.
May 13th or in June.
Okay,
If more than one person runs and they clear,
a certain,
and they're considered in good standing, then we have an election. When we get notice, 30 days notice has to be given according to the 964s and our bylaws. We put the notices up, 30 days after that, we go. And then there's an election. So whoever's been lying, tell them, look at
Excuse
the
me.
964s and look at the MOUs
Excuse me, I have a
and let
question.
them know.
Renee, I have a question. I heard you mention in good standing. You have to be in good standing?
In good standing.
What does that mean?
Allegedly, your rent is paid and you're not in grievance. Yeah, but you can deal with this process and you have 72 hours if they tell you or not to deal with the issues.
Got it. So, but currently you are the president.
I am resident, I have been certified. If you need to see it, I'd be glad to show you.
That is important for everybody to know, and you're just getting the rest of the tenant association board together through the
Right.
second part of the process.
Right, so I do have a first vice president, that's Lisa, she's from the Chelsea Houses, and there are now 2 sergeant arms.
You're Elliott, she's Chelsea.
Right.
So it meets the criteria.
And we have recently been able to get Curtis Williams, Senior Director of Resident Engagement, to certify the process. My neighborhood coordinator helped me push that through. They have both been notified the sergeant arms, so we are now at 4, the PUD minimum is 5.
I have a question also. So I've attended one Fulton association meeting and one Elliott-Chelsea, and I saw Jamar Adams from Essence there. I saw an elected official, Eric Botcher at Fulton. Have either of them ever come to Elliott-Chelsea meeting?
No.
Ever.
So our goal here, right, first of all, thank you so much for that was super complicated. Explain that. Right. And have to thread through that and go to 964 and ABC and XYZ is a pain in the ass. So let's bring us back to our sheep over here, right? I want to start with the committee members and then go out into thank you for talking, Mary.
Oh, no problem, that just came up with, they wasn't there, and I have you guys on tape, so when we have our meeting, I'm gonna let this to add to their experience. Why would you take it just for that meeting? No, I came to say that it's unfair to you guys.
Ladies, we can't hear you. They can't hear you online.
That's unfair to you guys, and take it for the.
They're still-
That you have to do it.
I tried, guys.
Thank you. So let's
That's what they're saying?
let's just start off a little bit and we're gonna keep this solid and then get some back and forth. So I'm gonna pick a committee member random, then I'm gonna go to the audience, right? What are the main things that we need to come to agreement about and consensus about? I'm gonna start with Raul out of the blue.
Okay, well,
Everybody listen for a second.
so what
And then
I've
go.
been hearing is that there is a troubling disconnect between what the community wants and needs and what the elected officials are doing or saying.
Speak a little louder.
That are troubled by the disconnect between what the tenants want and what the elected officials have said. There was one point where I think they said that they were all in favor of demolition,
The electeds, yes.
the elected.
They said yes.
And yet the community is not, and that's a huge disconnect. So what I would like is certainly is to straighten out the elected in terms of what the community.
Right, but can I ask you again, what are the points that we have to achieve for consensus or even to consider? Right, I understand that's a threshold question, right?
Continue, well, first of all, thank you for the difference between the claims and the facts.
We're gonna put it out
Very helpful.
for the board.
That was very helpful. I think these discussions are important so that we can get down to what it is that we need and want to move this forward.
Okay, so let me go to someone in the audience.
Ongoing.
Huh?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm writing ongoing
Yeah.
discussion.
No, I want to go to a member of the public. Yes, sir. Did you live here? What do you want to see happen?
I live at 420 West 19th Street, Fulton housing. I've been there since 1983. What I want to
You gotta
see,
step over here so they can see in the.
what I want to see is the preservation of Section 9 housing, no matter what.
Mhm.
I don't believe in this Section 8 conversion.
Understood.
Section 8 is Section 8, no matter what. And even now, Eric Adams is proposing a 10% hike. So the tenants who are in Section 8 housing have to pay up to 40% regardless of not being able to keep up with inflation. So those are the loopholes, as far as I'm concerned. What I collected, I was part of a group that collected over 600, roughly 600 signatures, wanted just basic repairs and the buildings kept maintained. Now, when I moved into 83, I moved in to take over my father's apartment. At that point, no floors were spotless.
We're talking 1983.
Yeah, 1983. The floors were spotless. Everything was maintained beautifully. But then the cutbacks came. Meanwhile, Wall Street was making money hands over fist, but somehow the money wasn't there to provide for NYCHA care. What I propose to all of you is to put pressure on the Eric Adams administration at this point. And use his support from the city council to push for the instant reinstitution of the stock transfer tax, which could generate anywhere between $4 to $14 million and maybe more than that. It's sponsored by Phil Steck, Bill 3353, and James Sanders, Bill 1406. James Sanders, the state senator. That alone could provide plenty of money to do all of these things. But what I'm trying to say is, Chelsea is, like you said before, it is physically sound, structurally sound. It's only a year younger than Penn South, and Penn South doesn't seem to be having any structural problems.
Year old, yeah.
Because Fulton was established in 1963 and Penn South 62. When John F. Kennedy spoke at the grand opening of the whole thing.
So let me just ask you, so you live here on campus here.
What I'm saying is, that 600 signatures that I helped collect along with other volunteers, you could extrapolate that to a decent majority of tenants in Fulton housing, opposing demolition and wanting repairs. That's basically what I'm saying.
Section 9.
Right.
And
So
Section 9 housing.
Oh.
understood. Now, I have a general question for you. With repairs or renovation happening, you understand you're gonna live through that. There'll be disruption, that kind of stuff. You're fine with that.
Well, if repairs are needed.
Well, no, I can tell you one thing I have done here. I have read the entire project needs assessment, which is line by line, what needs to be replaced in every building, the nature of it, what it is, right? And when we worked on this in 2019 and 2020, that was where the $366 million came up. And this was not a maybe, that you need new plumbing, you need new electrical, you need some work on the exterior of the buildings, you need a heating system. That was all real. And we knew that. And we know it's gonna not, those numbers are not the same today. That's obvious. Yeah, things change. But the question is that how you feel about it? Would you want repairs while you live there? Or do you want this specific proposal for demolition and new construction?
No, repairs where I live. In other words, these are things that should have been done over the years. Since Big Mac took over, put it that way, it's 1975, and they started cutting back on all sorts of expenses, actually being paid first before anything else happened, and also the repeal of the stock transfer tax in 1981. All that money went out by the wayside.
And so I also understand that you do not want to do the Section 8 rad pack conversion.
No,
you want Section 9.
I oppose Section 8 whatsoever.
Okay, understood. But as we go through this and figure out step by step, there's gonna, to be blunt, it's gonna be compromises. Someone's got to give one way or the other, right? And are you interested in being part of this discussion to figure out how we get to a compromise here? Because we're starting from a point where our elected officials are saying the only way, and the developer and NYCHA, is complete demolition and rebuilding.
No, there's no, I won't compromise on that. There's no I'm against any sort of demolition whatsoever.
All right.
There is no compromise on my part on that. I do know for a fact, even if I don't have all the specific facts or the specific information that you have, that it's possible to fund the repairs that are necessary. It just has to be a will to do it. And the building is structurally sound.
And I have a question, and you would be agreeing to the repairs, even if that meant you had to temporarily live outside of your unit?
If it's deemed in the safety of my.
Right, from one unit to another.
These are pragmatic concerns. I mean,
Okay.
if it has to do with asbestos removal, of course,
Okay.
these things are naturally to be expected. In fact, I recently refused to have someone use a sort of radiation counter to figure out if there was asbestos or whatever it was, because I felt radiation was detrimental to my health at that point. So these are, in that context, any tenant would be, willing to compromise on being out of the apartment for one day or two.
Whatever it takes.
the material. But in section 9, they go back and it's repairs.
Okay,
And it's repairs and whatever needs to be done, if it's tubing to be replaced, that has to be done. All the things that has been neglected has to be fixed, and this is what I'm in favor of.
Okay.
But it has to be section 9 because it's the only viable affordable
Yeah.
housing. Section 8 is not going to allow it.
this is important to hear, and it's important, and as we talk about it, there's a whole portion about financing. Section 9 might not have that money, so that may be a choice that you work, that if the money's not there, then in fact, certain repairs don't
I
get
think the
done.
money is there. I think there has to be a will.
I know, I'm not debating yes or no, but that may be a fact. We'll
It
find
may
out.
be something that's being thrown up, as far as I'm concerned, that's just something that's being thrown up as an obstacle, but the money is there.
Well,
There has to be pushed for.
again, I want to know if there's 67,000 apartments being renovated today for this whole Red Pack deal. It's not perfect. And you may say, no, we don't want to do it, as Jacob Reese House has voted against it recently. I understand. So let's go back to committee. Let's go to
Paul, quick point of information, Joe, could you just give us a quick thumbnail of the section 8 versus section 9? About all I can remember about section 9 is that the money comes direct from the government. What is the advantage?
both section 8 and section 9 rent subsidies come directly from the federal government.
Okay,
Period.
Section 8 vouchers.
Section 8 subsidies, and there's not just vouchers, there's all kinds of section 8. All those funds come from the federal government.
There's vouchers on section 8.
It's not just vouchers.
And section-
I'm gonna say again, it's not,
Section 8 is the essence of that tax. that they
okay,
have.
no, I'm gonna tell you again.
So,
That's what you're talking about in this project.
I don't.
Okay, it's this project, Alexa, there are many types of section 8.
Yes.
There is one type of section
I
9.
know. My Elliott-Chelsea tells you, which is the section 9, and I. believe
understand.
in the section 9.
Yes, I understand.
Okay?
And you have
And
made
there
that,
are people that are there with section 8 vouchers.
That's-
The vouchers that you can go anywhere.
no. Yes, the answer is yes, because when some buildings were built on the Elliott campus, they were funded by guys that, Renee, please. Yeah. When certain buildings were built on the Elliott campus, they were funded by the state, and there was a whole change about how things were done.
There were vouchers. that people
Folks,
would
I'm
have-
sorry, Alexa, the folks having the side conversations, it's just a little bit hard to hear, Alexa, and especially for people online. I'm
All right.
sorry, so. if you
So,
could just
so again, I want to say, I'm not,
minimum or step out.
we're not gonna,
Say is-
okay, I know, but Alexa,
Say section 9.
right, I understand that, but I didn't
I
recognize,
wrote section
didn't
9.
recognize you yet.
Alexa.
You have been consistent and clear and thoughtful,
Yeah.
that is what you want.
I want to save the tenants.
I got
from
you.
their home.
Right. So, Paul,
Yeah, but I'm sorry, one other thing. For
so,
those,
so the point is, right, for a moment, the point is that both subsidies, section 8 and section 9, come from the federal government through HUD, right? They are just two different programs. The difference is the section 8 program.
Yeah.
Funds many private developers predominantly across the nation. The section 9 program is for public housing.
so section 8 can be in the form of a voucher, and a person who gets a section 8 voucher can go to a variety of places.
Yes.
Section 9.
No. Can I please stop? No.
If I have it wrong.
No, can I please answer the question? Section 8 is not just a voucher that you can walk around with.
Thank you.
There is section 8 that is
Not
attached.
this one,
No, there is section 8 that is attached to buildings and an
Yeah.
apartment,
Yes.
right?
which
And-
is essence.
It is not essence, my God.
They're presenting the.
So we're just talking about.
We're talking about how the program works, not here. We're not talking about here, right? So section 8 has a portable, has a portable voucher.
Yeah.
I know, but the point of it is the
We
question
can't
finance.
finish the meeting.
Well,
There's
I'm
people in line
sorry.
if you're doing this. Can you
I'm
please-
sorry.
No.
Clarify.
You're right, but
Please,
we're.
please let it work.
Okay, that's right.
No.
Superior.
No, I want to say right now, plaintiff victim ain't gonna work here.
No, I'm not.
Because
playing
we're in a
victim,
public discussion.
Because I don't like to be told to be quiet or manipulated. She told me to, every time I come here and I say something, she tells me, in other words, shut up.
Have you ever shut up in a meeting? No. Never. So don't even say shut up. Don't try it. So now,
Yes.
Yes, Joe. Section 8 has another program, right? where the subsidies are attached to the building, you know that, right?
Yes.
And therefore, people can die, people can move, and the next person who comes in gets a subsidy, right?
Mhm.
And in fact, anything happening, any of the NYCHA programs are project-based vouchers, which means it's attached to the apartment. I am not saying whatsoever that NYCHA would not try to pull a fast one, do things, figure out something to move people around. That could happen, but that's not the case here, okay? And the other issue that we have that is very real is that it was negotiated with Chelsea NYCHA RFP, and it's not settled yet, it's not in the documents yet, is that NYCHA continues to own the land. They lease the buildings to a developer. And then there is a document called a deed restriction that is attached to the land that says this must be permanently affordable. The things that people are very concerned about is that the Section 8 contracts have a term, and they're a 20 or a 30-year term. And that's what people are seriously worried about, that what happens when they come up for renewal, they may not be renewed, or God forbid, like for a moment, the government may change. What are we thinking about? Right? Here we are today. Now, Alexa, before we go first, I want to get someone else's, so yes, any more questions?
No, thank you.
All right, so now let's go, so that was a
Sure,
question.
just so you remember, also you have a number of hands up on the.
Oh, good, good. So let's take someone from the online. You pick somebody, Jeffrey?
Yeah, let's go with the first person I got.
Yeah. And we're gonna start to manage the time, and everyone's got to get something to say.
Missy, you go ahead.
Missy, can you hear us?
Yes, I
Just
can
give
hear you
us-
just fine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Just
thanks.
tell us who you are and where you live.
My name is Missy Adams and I live right next to Fulton Houses on 9th Avenue between 19th and 20th Streets.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And I just have, I guess, 3 points to make. You had mentioned originally on the original project that involved repairs, that no one in the community participated in the original meetings. And I just wanted to say, I myself am very involved in the community. I know a bunch of people who are, and we just haven't heard much about what's going on. I mean, there just has not been much information coming out, not only about that, but I ran into someone from Callan Lord today, and she said, what, they're planning on demolishing the houses? She had no idea. And so another person who's also very involved in the community had no idea. I think neighbors, it's very scattershot whether they know or not. And it's important that everyone know, and there just hasn't been an effort to inform people what the plan is and what's been happening.
Missy, just to note, it's the Chelsea NYCHA Working Group was heavily attended by a lot of broader community interests. It's after that was over that no one from the community was involved with it. So there was some discussion early on.
I guess the only early meeting I ever attended was at Atlantic Theater, where I guess Miguel Acevedo yelled through the entire meeting and no one could talk. So what?
No, continue, go ahead. Your other points?
Oh, when you were talking about the demo plan and the developer saying that, you know, the things are structurally unsound, and I just have to say that's a developer's playbook. That's a typical playbook. We've been through this before with the seminary. It was the exact same thing. They're like, we have no money, we're broke, we can't afford this. Yeah, the building that was on 9th Avenue is unsound. Nobody, it's falling apart. It's just because they hadn't repaired the roof. That it was leaking. But it's just the same old argument, and they're using that with the houses. They're unlivable. People have to move. It's dangerous, and I really find that to be complete lying. And I don't know how they get away with it. And I don't know how our elected officials are supporting that at all.
But Missy, let me ask you as a neighborhood resident, what do you want here? What do you see? What can help the tenants from your point of view? Just give it off the cuff.
Well, just from talking to tenants, In fact, just recently, because I'm with the Chelsea Garden Club and we garden the Avenue tree pits. And people come up all the time to talk. And one was like, oh, I hope they don't move us out. I hope they don't go ahead with the project. And honestly, I think it's going to be a disaster if they demolish. I mean, that footprint, the new footprint is horrendous. And what it's all about is the money, honestly. And 5,000 or how many thousand luxury apartments that they want to add. It's not about affordable housing. It has nothing to do with affordable housing. It's about luxury apartments. And let's not be fooled about and about the red herring of affordable housing, because that mantra is ridiculous and insulting. It makes.
Thank you very much, Missy.
Sure.
Let's go back to the committee for a second. Roberta, about what we want.
I mean, I think it's hard to deny that it would be helpful to have a singular point of communication. What that means for like the ultimate future of the project is a completely different question, and one that I would highly defer to primarily the tenant associations and to a slightly lesser extent, the surrounding neighbors. But it appears that part of the way that NYCHA related elections are able to get away with some of the lack of clarity here is by not having a singular point of communication. And it would be very challenging, I think, to hold them accountable to a singular point of communication, but I do believe that would be particularly helpful. And then it's just, it would be good to be able to support a truly tenant association-led process to reach a resolution.
And what I want to know, thank you, Roberta. What I want to note is that this is a major piece of land in the Chelsea community. And of course, the major impact of anything is the tenants, but it lives in a community. And we have communities within our communities, the Penn South community, the Elliott community, the Fulton community, 9th Avenue, like there's different fields of thoughts. We are all having a stake in this. Tenants lead, but we are having a stake because it really means what the future is of this community. If you've seen the plans, and it's a very high-rise, dense proposal that would entirely change the community. So that's what we're struggling with. Let's go to somebody. How about Luana? Can you speak to this?
Well, no, I'm gonna make it short. I have been in this, pretty much.
How about your name and who you are?
Thomasita,
Okay.
and I live across the street, 466, on
Right.
the first floor. And, I've been in this neighborhood practically all my life, and I'm 70 years old. So, yeah, and I raised my 2 children here. One is a police officer and the other one works for a magazine. I'm for section 9 to keep it as is, okay? And when we go to the gym on 25th Street.
Yeah.
And we have people there from the co-ops, it's a whole community. It's not just the project people. It's the people from the co-ops, from the other one, Fulton. Yeah, from Fulton. So we all communicate. We're all like a family, right? So it just makes no sense, and it's very confusing, as we all are, about the whole process. Nothing is clear. We are being lied to. If it sounds too good to be true, it's not true. Okay? But basically, that's what I had to say. I am not, and they say that most of the people voted no. If you start taking signature door by door by door, you'll see that it's a no.
So do you think as part of any future process, there should be some sort of real monitored vote?
So
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Okay, Scott, Travis,
Thank you for that.
as a
Yeah, so
community member.
I too share the belief that this should be tenant driven. And I go back to the second point of the claim versus the vote. And I have some true questions about the veracity of that vote.
Yeah.
And I think we should recommend a highly overseen voting process based off related and NYCHA presenting first and foremost, so all the tenants are formally informed of what their options are. and then we lay out clear guidelines for for the voting process. And have the tenants actually decide what they actually want, and we take part in counting up those votes. And whether that is a resident by resident situation or a household, however we do that, but it needs to be based like a co-op or a condo situation where you have delegates and you have the voting process and a decision is made.
Well, normally votes are made, what I found out here, normally votes are made by a household, not by individuals in a household, because that's just a very odd thing. There could be 6 people in one and 2 in another, and then the 6 people have more say than 2, and it's just 2 apartments. I mean, right. Okay.
So
But Travis, you're saying monitor the vote, and not monitored by related or as it's monitored by a third party.
by a third party,
Independent.
and we require a threshold percentage of votes from the residents to come through. So whether we want that to be a 60% clip or a 70% clip, but we want some level of participation from all the facilities, all the houses here. And then, once that decision comes through, after everyone's been duly informed of what the options are, because I understand going back to the first meeting I attended about this, there was a lot of confusion from the residents about what they were asked to sign, what they were being surveyed about. A survey is not the same as a vote, by the way. And creating language well, survey versus voting is very confusing to folks. If you survey me about my opinion, my survey or my opinion about a topic may be wholly different than my actual vote about the topic, because you surveyed me about it and I knew nothing about it. So making sure that everyone's actually informed of what they're voting on and not telling residents that they need to move out and have the decisions are made and being confusing or only attending one particular tenant association meeting, but not attending the other one. And also piggyback off the electeds, and Paul, you brought this up. Our electeds need to be present for this. Our electeds need to be present. They need to be present for the presentation from NYCHA and from the tenants association. They need to hear from the tenants association. They need to be present for the NYCHA presentation. They need to be present for the related conversation. And they also need to respond to this document. I think all that needs to be part of this process.
Thank you. Anything else to say?
No, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much. So, let's go back online. Jesse, pull someone else over. No, go to Paul. So coming over is Judy Wester.
Yeah, and I'm really pleased to see.
You gotta
this-
speak louder, Judy. We can't hear you.
Okay, how's this?
A
little better.
little better.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've been, okay. So, darn, I just messed up. Can you come back to me?
Sure.
Okay.
Bring someone else over. Thank you, Judy. We'll come back. Gonna bring somebody over, then we're gonna, okay. You may head back there. Yeah, why don't you come up over and bring somebody over? You gotta stand on the X though.
So my name is Alicia Martinez. I wrote it down.
Oh, your name.
Yeah, I didn't forget my name. Okay, my name is Alicia Martinez. I've been living here in housing in the same apartment for 37 years, and I never moved.
In Elliott.
At Fulton or?
Right here in Chelsea.
Okay.
Across the street. And I never moved, and my building is a very good building. And I would say, during the pandemic, I have a fire right next to my wall to wall.
In the other apartment?
Yes, in the other apartment. Nothing happened to my apartment. So when they said that this building are falling down and everything is like, what are they talking about? Because it's now buildings, at least my building. I consider it's mine. So, also, I have fires there, I have earthquakes. The last earthquake that we had, I didn't feel nothing, nothing. So these are good buildings. So that's why it breaks my heart for them to try to break it down. Why? In all these buildings, you come to see, they're not good material. We just had a fire in the Hudson Guild.
Oh, the new buildings.
Yeah, the new buildings. And it's, you could see it's a big hole in there. So I'm wondering, what kind of material they using for this new building. Because this building, like I said, we have fires and I'm sure in different buildings and nothing happened. Another thing, they're talking about maintenance and stuff like that. We never had no problem with the elevators years ago. I don't know what happening now. It's constantly paying, problem with the elevators. And I remember at the beginning, when I started living there in 1988, the houses, they used to come, they used to clean our bathroom, the tiles. They used to fix it, right? They used to spray and clean it, and they used to maintain the apartments and the whole building. And that's still happening, and that's why some apartments, they're getting messed up.
Right.
And the thing is that, I don't know why they stopped, but they used to maintain the building, the apartments, like I say, in the bathroom, they come and fix it, that was great. They stopped doing all that. And my apartment is really good. Anybody who come, it's nice and fixed. And I remember like in 2018, I had to take the house into court because they were saying that I wasn't paying the rent and I was paying. And because it was their fault, they fixed my apartment, they fixed my floor, they fixed everything, they painted and everything. So, you know, there's a way of trying to get your apartment fixed, so. And my apartment, I love my building, my apartment, so, and they're great. So there's no, when they said that the building is not good, that's not true.
So let me ask a question. I'm gonna make the assumption that some apartments are very good because people also maintain and deal with them, others not so good.
Well, because it depends on the person,
If the
yeah.
person and maybe the tenant's older, couldn't do something, as NYCHA is not doing it, you are able to do stuff and maintain your house,
Yes,
right?
yes.
At the same time, though, I will say that your building is probably built in the early 1960s. So normally what would happen in any other building in the city of New York, there would be renovation that happened. They'd replace some plumbing here, some wiring there. Over a period of time, things would just get constantly, and that happens in Penn South, for example, right? So one of the things we're definitely talking about here, no matter what, is in replacing these systems, the plumbing, the electricity, windows, whatever needs to be replaced as part of any plan that happens here.
It just need repair.
Right.
It doesn't need
Gotcha.
demolition.
Gotcha.
That's it.
Paul definitely, needs, and then we'll go to someone like Bert over.
I'll speak up, thanks, sorry. Thanks for letting me pump up. For those of you who don't know, I'm Paul Devlin, co-chair of Hell's Kitchen Land Use, serve on Chelsea Land Use Committee, sit through many of these meetings. This is not my normal meeting night, and so I'm grateful that I can speak and then leave. And I will watch the rest of this because I watch all of these meetings all the time. I really applaud this effort that we kind of have a reset and we try to figure out a way forward. I think the notion of a single channel of communication is really critical. I think someone stepping in and taking the lead is really critical. One of the things we went through with Chelsea Land Use, though, was we did this exercise about a year ago and said, what is it that we want? Correct. And we came up with a long list and we presented it and we argued for it. I was at a meeting that Eric Swatcher held this week with NYCHA. They're talking about moving forward with the rezoning plan, and that's the only thing they seem to talk about.
Full demolition and much more bulk.
Right, so I caution that we continue this effort to talk about rehabilitation, renovation, keeping that plan moving forward. But at the same time, while this train is moving along, that we continue in the dialogue with those people and not have it be perceived that because some of us are saying we want to have a higher percentage of lower income in the new development, or that we want to have the non-rezoning alternative versus the rezoning alternative, that we're standing in support of that plan. That we're not saying we are in favor of demolition, we're not in favor of that plan, but we want our voices to be heard. If that plan continues forward, we have some of the components that we feel are very important. So
let me just note
for
something here.
example,
No, just for the public. So in the original Chelsea NYCHA plan, there was 1 or 2 buildings or 3 buildings to be added. That was it. That were going to be partial market rate, partial affordable housing in order to provide additional funds to renovate these buildings. Along the way, there is now a major component that is to create thousands of new apartments on the land here. I think this is a thing that we have to actually, Paul, engage with directly, because I don't know how that became a priority in this discussion. At every NYCHA campus across the city, no one has said that campus must be demolished in order to create 3,400, 2,000, 5,000 new apartments. It's singular to here. And that seems to be a driving force that is pushing this train ahead.
I agree that is what's pushing that train forward. And I think that if we can stop the train, that's one method. And that may be successful, may not be successful. But if that train does move forward and we aren't participating in that conversation as well, I think we're missing an opportunity. And the lesson learned from Chelsea Land Use is we tried to create the list of wants. Some got met, some didn't. The compromise we always strive for on this board. So what I would want.
So there's a bigger we than the board here, and that's what we're trying to do. That the board needs to act as a catalyst to get what the community wants, not just we, the board.
Well, but, and I think that Travis's point of, what the vote from the NYCHA residents, the vote, not a survey, not a nebulous, but a high percentage participation. What do the NYCHA residents really want?
Yeah.
Is first and foremost in my mind. What the remaining part of the community wants is secondary to me in my, and how we move forward. But the process is moving. And so I want to stay engaged in that process, even if I don't agree with.
We have no choice but to stay engaged because that's our community board role.
So the point,
That's not the only thing.
the points that I've raised at other meetings, I just want to throw out here for consideration is that when we talk about integrating the new development with the combination of NYCHA, mixed rate, market rate, and having an integration, I think the concept of integration of housing is much more important than segregation of poor people from rich people. I think we have room for adding, if we add more units, we add more NYCHA units. I think if we add more units, we add a higher percentage of permanently affordable. This 25 to 30% through MIH is not high enough. It should be significantly higher than that. I think we need to be monitoring relocation plans for all considerations. Rehabilitation, someone has to move out for 6 days, someone has to move out for 6 months, whatever it is. The non-rezoning alternative, they only talk about the relocation plan for the rezoning alternative. They're not talking about the displacement and replacement plan for the other alternatives that exist. Another thing that's come up in some conversations, I think, is we have to talk about lease corrections. We have a lot of people who live in apartments who may or may not be on leases, may have different family members,
And
may
this
have longevity.
opportunity, and this cannot be an opportunity to get rid of people from this.
Right, this should not mean we exclude people and keep people out because they're not on the current leases, but rather we fix those problems as we move forward. And another concept is maybe we have separate campuses. Maybe it's no longer Fulton, Elliott-Chelsea, maybe it's Fulton.
They are separate campuses.
And Elliott-Chelsea, but we have different plans for the two campuses.
Yeah.
And so those are
So
my.
you say handle them differently.
Handle them differently. There are different campuses, there may be different needs, there may be different conditions of buildings, there may be different desires. So your vote, Travis, that you're talking about, maybe everybody in Fulton says demolish and build, and everybody in Elliott-Chelsea says rehabilitate. Well, then maybe we do it differently.
Maybe that's the compromise.
Then we reach a
So
compromise.
can we make note though, that question about the relocation plan? I asked that of Related in that first meeting, and they said they fully guaranteed. So that means they lied.
Because can I just say, we'll put that in the facts and the claims, and the facts, because you asked that, I asked that. We were told on a Thursday evening that no one would be relocated off-site.
Yeah.
We had a meeting on Friday, we were told people would be relocated
I
off-site.
specifically asked Jamar that question in that
Right,
meeting.
yeah, no,
He said something on Thursday and then something else on Friday. Can we go back? So, we online?
I'm gonna thank you and leave, and I'm gonna watch the rest of this later, I promise.
So we're getting close to 9. How about Brenda Cruz? Someone we haven't heard from before. Brenda, can you speak?
Yes. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have, I'm a resident of Fulton Houses. I'm in one of the buildings that is supposed to be demolished from what they've been telling me. I have attended numerous meetings, and I'm going to just go from the 2023 meeting that I went to, and what was told to me was, and the reason why I went was because a lot of the residents from my building that thought we were going to be the first to be demolished were promised that they would be able to move off of campus into other related management buildings. So that was one of the reasons they signed the survey or vote beforehand. So when I went and I
Wow.
asked, yes, when I went to ask about this being a possibility, Joanne, he said that that was not true, and a couple of residents stood up, upset, and then he said, "Well, it's really for the seniors from the Chelsea Elliott housing, and we might have 2 or 3 apartments open, possible for a 2-bedroom, which I wouldn't be even available for because I need a 3-bedroom. So then I also wanted to bring the tenants from my floor, which is a 95-year-old neighbor who he was having a very hard time with the survey and what was needing to be signed. And also I have Chinese neighbors that had no way of actually understanding the paperwork that they were being given. So I tried to explain my best. They both did not want demolishing, but then it was basically told it's kind of a done deal. And our
And this
bill,
is when, Brenda, this
this is
is
in
what year?
2023, I believe I have dates on my phone, but I believe it's more around May, or it could have been even before May, because we were then told to come in. And when we were told to come in to speak to HOU, I went in and visited the office 3 different times, one with my neighbor to try to have things broken down to him. Who he was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I've been here since this building was built. And he wanted his daughter to go over the paperwork before he signs anything. Then after that, there was a female who's like the head of the HOU that was making us very comfortable and explaining to us like this would be the best option because of certain repairs needing to take so much time that we would maybe be put into hotels and be put off site. So I could understand that argument. I understand a lot of the residents in my building wanting better, wanting a doorman, wanting access to nice parks, because they were making it like the demo and all of that will make all of this come sooner for us. So now I was called that year in 2023 that we were going to be moving out by the summer. Some of the residents in our building were packing up and cleaning out bedrooms to get ready for that move. Now, I then continued to call to just keep asking, and they just kept adding on 3 more months. So then in September, I needed to know because of my children being in school,
And we're still in 2023, right?
yeah, this is all in 2023 still. So then it kind of just went silent. But the survey, the other thing that we had to fill out was this composition paper with how many people we had to each apartment and whether we wanted to move off a site, stay on NYCHA property, or maybe possibly be not, I think, coming back. It was 3 options. Now, when I asked about the off-site, a lot of the residents were under the assumption that you put off-site, that means you could be moved into one of the residential buildings. So
Yeah. Residential related buildings.
yes, as long as they're related. But that particular option was more for the Chelsea Elliott residents because it was really for the senior. So then going forward, anybody that needed, I'm sorry. Oh,
Go ahead, Brenda.
yeah, I'm sorry. So then, we were, a lot of the residents that needed more bedrooms signed that they wanted to be on campus, wanted to still stay in NYCHA and wanted to stay in Chelsea, and everything was going to move forward. And then everything just kind of went quiet. And then years passed and I was still, asking for updates. So now recently I received a call about 3 weeks ago from one of the people that work for HOU. And she said she needed to know if I was going to be going anywhere in the next 6 months. On a voicemail she left that they need to have me come into the office to fill out paperwork, and if I would be leaving in the next 6 months for vacation or any other reason, because they need to know. Then I was also approached by another person who works for HOU 2 different times to come fill out paperwork because they need the composition and they need to ask me some questions in order about, in order to move. Now the issue I have is that I'm just very confused with.
Brenda, you put yourself on mute.
Put yourself on mute, unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. So even with going forward, we were then told, we went to another meeting where we saw what they were gonna update the apartments in. And what apartments, when we move on campus, what our apartments will now look like. And we were told then it would be in June. Again, we were told we would be getting, it was only for our building 11 to go, and we'll be moving in June.
What year are we in now?
So now right now, this.
Now?
Yes,
You're saying
2025.
June of 25.
Right. So we were told that we had to start attending meetings as building 11 because they needed to give us the proper information for our moving, and that they were trying to have us move out by June. So yes, by June. So then we went to pick flooring and mirrors, etc. And they made me bring my neighbors. And then they told us also, we started asking, what about, we don't want the floors or this. What about if we just fixed our elevator? Because the elevator in our building was broken for 4 months. And we only have one elevator. So my 94-year-old neighbor's daughter would call me to ask if I could go, the elevator door would get stuck, if I could go find the floor it's stuck on, go down, get him. And it was going on for 4 months. And it still happens every once in a while. So we were asking about, money going towards that. And one of the HOU ladies said, we're going to work on all your tickets getting cleared up from NYCHA. We're working with NYCHA with the tickets that are opened for your buildings, and we're going to make sure we're going to get all this stuff done for you. But we're working on the elevator repair. The piece can't, whatever it is, the piece is on back order, etc. Now, just today, my elevator had feces in it, and we had dead baby rats in front of the building. When I called to put tickets in, I then called the management, which they tell you to do, with your ticket order number, to expedite the call. And he said, yeah, they'll probably already cleaned it up, I'm sure. And I said, no, I did see her clean it. But as far as the extermination in front of the building, the rats are getting really, really bad. And the lady from HOU did say, we can call her with ticket numbers. She goes, well, then do that. And I said, is that what are we supposed to do now? Are we supposed to be working with both of you? Or are we supposed to be giving ticket numbers to her? I'm not clear. And he was like, well, if that's what they said in the meeting, then that's what I guess you could do. I wasn't aware that they do extermination too. But yeah, they are helping us with the From what I know, they were helping with us across the street, and they're getting all the tickets in order, and they'll be taking over soon. So I guess that's what they're doing now. So he too kind of almost made it to me like, yeah, well, this is going forward.
Okay, Brenda, thank you very much.
Wait, one quick question.
Yes.
Yes.
The survey that was done, it was only in English, correct?
So yes, correct. There was papers given by related management that did have Spanish and I believe Chinese, which would be the papers to explain basically how the buildings would be set up, and how I think the same thing about the leases. But that particular, so there was a paper survey, and then we also had to go in to fill out like a family composition, and whether we want to be on site or off the site. There was another paper that we all filled out as well. That's what.
Do you have any of that information, any of that paper?
Yes.
Me and my neighbor did take pictures of it back in, I believe, 2023 when we went, because he wanted to send it to his daughter. So I can ask him and I can ask his daughter.
If you could find out and send that to the community board.
I believe he said he wanted the copies of it.
Yeah, can you send that to the community board?
Yes, yeah. I'll definitely speak to him as well. And the daughter also told me that she was in contact. So I'm really confused, because again, they called me about
we're all confused.
going on vacation in 6 months.
That's the plan.
They told me in June, and now they said it's a possibility in July. So and I don't know.
Brenda, I understand your confusion, but
Yes.
Maria had just a comment about that.
Oh.
Then we're gonna move on to the next person.
Sure.
Thank you.
I just said, yes, you're confused, we're all confused, and I think that that's part of the plan.
Yes.
So I want to come to another member of the committee sitting here in the.
Sure.
on
Thank
the
you so
table.
much.
Thank you, Brenda.
Okay.
There's notes. That's what I see.
So trying to bring clarity to the situation.
And a little louder for the folks online.
Trying to bring clarity to the situation. And I've, like others, I've been going to multiple meetings. In no particular order, I've been jotting down some ideas. I think there should be bi-weekly meetings on stakeholders, including the tenants. The fact that people are walking around not knowing what's going on with such a major development and a potential uprooting of people's lives is just.
The scale of it is immense here.
It's not that hard. It wouldn't be a decision-making meeting. It would just be, let's update each other meeting every 2 weeks with whoever needs to be in the room, with the stakeholders or their designees. And then put together a little minutes or summary of that and send it out so people will know what's going on. We should keep hearing from the tenants. The idea of a vote. Then in no particular order. All these ideas at different meetings are being put out there saying, don't worry, this is taken care of, that's taken care of. Even the other night, there was a meeting, they kept referencing other documents. And they're throwing out the ABC document, the 1, 2, 3 document, as if people know them. People don't know that. So start to put this stuff in writing, right? Again, not saying that we necessarily agree with the plan, but if something's to be considered, put it down in writing. So, my right to return to my previous apartments, can we grandfather current tenants, with no right sizing their apartments? If this is gonna take years and years to get done, can we look at a rent freeze for tenants until the completion, if people have to put up with this? Any money that gets.
Just so you know, people pay 30% of their income no matter what. So it doesn't matter what the rents are. Pay 30%.
30% of the income, so the rent board that just did the.
It doesn't pertain to that.
Fair enough. Thanks. The money that's generated here stays here for this community and these sets of buildings, not to go elsewhere in NYCHA. That if indeed medical offices or grocery stores or daycares are built here, that the tenants would have a right to get in there, that the insurance would be accepted, or for that matter, the non-insurance would be accepted in the medical facilities. I mean, it just goes on and on. The right integrations, written lease guarantees, then other aspects of it. The brick facades of the buildings that goes forward. If the tenants need help, that they get free attorney help, that the tenants have to pay out of pocket for it. Proper integration of buildings. By the way, as an aside, you know now what's going on in Hoboken, New Jersey, is being talked about as a model. I think it's something.
Yes, Eric has encouraged people,
Right, so we
many
should try,
people to visit.
we should try to flesh that out, so we become more.
So we should note that our council members taking folks to Hoboken, the scale of what's happening in Hoboken is minuscule to this. It affects maybe couple hundred families, and there's been a full, robust community process on that.
So if this is gonna be right sizing, there's been comments made that if I live in an apartment now, I'll get the same square footage, if not more square footage. I might go from a 2-bedroom to a 1, there's no studio to be.
Correct.
I might go from a 2-bedroom to a 1-bedroom, but the 1-bedroom would be equal to or greater than my
Someone
current.
said that?
That's what I heard,
They said studio. If you're single and you have a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, you want into a studio. And the studios look like
Well, actually, it was said just the other night that there would be no studios.
studios, only one.
This is the problem we got
But
here.
miss, that was another thing the other night, less than 24 hours ago, right? And I took notes.
Right, but I find it interesting, she went to a meeting where they said the opposite.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the problem.
Two people from NYCHA, including the general counsel, started the thing yesterday.
The chair.
About Chelsea though?
And they,
Yes, yes.
they came to my apartment and they told me.
They, who were they?
HUD.
No.
The
HOU.
And. I have it, sorry. But she came, she was showing me the apartment, the whole layout, you know, and I told her, well, I'm not worried, you know? And she said, you know, they're gonna put you in a brand new apartment, and yeah, and I said, she said, of course they're gonna downsize you. I'm like, downsize me? And then she goes, yeah, you might get, because I have a 2-bedroom, right? So she says, you'll get a 1-bedroom maybe, but they're doing like studios. She
And
made
this
that
is
very
someone,
clear.
this is someone from HOU. HOU stands for, I forgot.
Housing Opportunities Unlimited.
Yeah, housing opportunities unlimited.
Thank you.
And when did this
Higher-
happen approximately?
This.
How are you related?
This was last year. This was this past year.
Joe, it's not the first time I heard this, though. I thought we heard this before, well, right sizing.
No, but I want to note, though, what we're hearing though is Kevin is giving a specific report on a meeting he was at yesterday with Lisa Bova Hyatt, Chair of the Housing Authority, and a number of people from the Housing Authority who said there would only be 1-bedrooms, no studios. Yet a year ago, you were told there would be. And I think that's the broader theme we have here, that there is no clarity in this information and it drives people crazy.
However, if there are bi-weekly meetings, it gets reduced to writing.
Right, I mean, writing.
On the meeting, I'm making this up, the meeting on May 10th, the following 5 points were heard.
Right.
Put it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's in writing as opposed to wandering around. Let me just try to wrap up, Joe.
Sure, go ahead.
The cognizant of the time. Good cause, eviction protections for the tenants, protecting the Hudson Guild space, working with Pierce 33. You know, the building out higher the tenant, more integration, can we get more up to like 50% affordability, et cetera. But I would just wrap up and summarize by saying we should not, the tenants should, and we should not be in a position to just wander around the darkness. That if there's every 2 weeks, a meeting, write it down in writing and have something to refer back.
And clear communication, that's not.
Yeah.
The principal of PS 33 didn't even know what was going on.
Yes.
Last week.
So I want to note to everybody that we have to, we're at, it's here 9:30, it is 9:10. And I want to go to a few more people, one more online, and then I want to go to Renee. So online, Rachel from the committee, your thoughts?
No, Gary has his hand up for a while.
Oh, Gary. Go ahead, Gary, sorry. I
Hi,
didn't see it.
everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. This is vital in this moment. I live on 21st and 9th Avenue. Quick little background. I'm in real estate. I oversee renovation management. And I have just sort of stepped into this in the last 4 weeks. People in our neighborhood do not know what's happening. They are not aware. People in my building, people on my block, people down 9th Avenue, they don't know what's happening. I just want to point out that everything that Joe is highlighting during this meeting is 1,000% spot on. 1,000%. Because I've been trying to drill down a little bit about what this is really about. And I think this is happening on this campus because housing here is so desirable. So what they're looking to do, and NYCHA admitted this just last night, NYCHA is $80 billion in the hole. They are looking to make up that money. The most desirable campus is the one right here in Chelsea. We know how the High Line is built up and down. We see it, right? What they want to do is demolish everything and pack it, overbuild those lots. I want to start talking, because it's definitely not demolish. It needs to be some form of rehab, no demolition. Demolition will affect our community. And I also want to be very clear. I am all for improving the housing for residents in Fulton and Elliott-Chelsea. 100%. They need better places to live, hands down. However, the other party in this is the community. If those lots are overbuilt on, we will be in the shade. There will be pedestrian traffic. There will be auto traffic. There will be a toll on our sewer system. We are in a flood zone. When it rains, we have a huge problem. I'm ready to start talking about how the overdevelopment of these lots, if they're demolished, will affect our community. So I am all for rehabbing the buildings, being sure that the residents of Elliott-Chelsea, and Fulton have a better place to live. But those lots cannot be demolished and they cannot be rebuilt as proposed. It is not going to work. And I'll tell you right now, our elected officials are ramming this through. They are looking to make this happen. You can tell by the energy behind it. I was on the Eric Botcher call yesterday. He answered none of these questions that I posed. They refuse to address how it's going to affect the community. They refuse to take the residents of these buildings into consideration and how they're going to be displaced. So all I want to say is, I think it's about NYCHA trying to recoup as much money to get themselves out of the $80 billion hole. And these lots are the most valuable to developers. So I think I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I think we have to get very strategic as to how we raise the red flag here, because our elected officials are ramming this through for whatever reason. I don't know if they get campaign funds from these developers. I don't know what the deal is, but they are ramming it through, and it's going to be at the expense of the residents in those buildings and of our beloved community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go online to Rachel Lee from the committee, and then we're going to go to Renee from the Tenant Association at Elliott-Chelsea.
Thank you, Joe. This is Rachel Lee. I just wanted to echo what the various community members have raised, having gone through several of the chapters of the DEIS. I do agree with those in the room that it is convoluted, very confusing. So it is, we are trying our best as the community board to try and be that bridge in the communication, which seemed to have been the linchpin, but what failed in the previous iterations of this. So thank you everyone for your input, and no further comments on my end.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Renee, but I just want to note one thing. I think it's very important that this committee, our community board, really seek to work with the tenant associations to go on some tours of Elliott-Chelsea and Fulton, because what is being portrayed is that every apartment is falling apart at the seams and no one could possibly live there, and what a disaster it is. I think it's important that people who sit on this board, who represent and make decisions, go out there and look. So I'm going to ask the tenant associations to help make that happen. Renee, your turn. You got to hit the mark.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I ran on specifically an anti-demolition platform. So I'm against the demolition. I am for comprehensive modernization under Section 9. That will bring everything we need.
And in plain English, major renovation.
Major renovations. You can look on it. It's being done in Hot Hill, St. Nicholas houses, Gowanus and Wyckoff. It can be done here. NYCHA specifically, and Simon Kowinski said, they came here for the real estate values. So whenever they
when did he say that?
I have to get it to you. I think it's May 2nd, 2022 on the New York Public Housing Committee. So I have to make sure that's the correct date, but I believe that's the date. Approximately a little over an hour in. They're only here for the real estate values. We are the real estate that they are selling. They always say they need to leverage their real estate, they leverage our buildings. So that's what it is. Even when they're doing solar, that's what they're doing. They're giving to low income. One thing I'm going to say to you, let's stop using the word low income. Low income has changed. High ground, it went 87,000 last year. It is now $90,000 is the top end of low income. So we're talking $26,000 to $90,000. We need to understand that language. Stop using percentages. Use the actual dollar amounts. It's only going to get higher.
Easier to understand the dollar amounts and percentages, right?
So you need to use the language, the actual language, the actual numbers. So 50% is a joke. Okay, I'm not for under Section 8. Let me explain this now. NYCHA eligibility under Section 9, 90,000. Under Section 8, 56. Big difference. You have over 7,500 units altogether. You would have to look at the public housing index dashboard for that. There's a lot. You rent the units. Some of these units have been empty for 5 years. They are rehab, they have left them to rot. If you don't have someone in it, it gets dirty, people get sick. This is what you're dealing with. Furniture is being taken out. Right now, they are in these buildings, rehabbing the apartments, renovating the apartments. A rehabilitation can be done. It can be done under section 9. People do not want to do it. There's no political will. That has to be pushed. We don't need to be sold out. We don't need to be used. That's what needs to be done. Section 8, it's a mess. And we all know, even though the tag goes to the department 1 year after the transfer process, you can get a tenant protection voucher and go somewhere. You're not going anywhere. To be quite honest, people do not want section 8 households. And so you have income discrimination. This is where we're at. Jamar does not come here. He has not even congratulated me on my victory. I know, right? Gabriella Rossi.
Your choice.
Okay, so Gabrielle, so what I found out is that when I one day walked into Chelsea Edition, because I do make regular rounds to the apartment, I see signs up. I saw a sign saying that they were going to have a meeting for Chelsea Edition. I walk into this meeting. I then see.
When was this?
This was about what, when they were having people go over to 420.
Yeah.
On the 19th floor. They couldn't they seemed a little surprised to see me, but they didn't freak out. When I went over there, saw it. So they took people over by languages. People spoke Chinese, they had headsets on, Spanish, English speaking. We went, we saw the apartment. That apartment is smaller than the apartment they're gonna give up, and they should not give it up. They have not stated, we are in the environmental process, so there's no need for them to do that. So then Gabriella I look at Gabriella and
Who's
said,
Gabriella?
why, Gabriella Rossi. I asked her, well, why didn't you inform me of it? From Essence Development, used to work for related companies. I asked you, why didn't you get in touch with me? She said, I don't have your email. Of course, I bumped up the email that I did have from her and said, this is how you get in touch with me. Now, anyone needs to get in touch with me, Elliott-Chelsea@gmail.com. It's the easiest way to do it. So this is the game. Everyone's playing. Even if we tell people, it's very hard to get them here. Every 2 weeks, how are they gonna get the information? That's another thing. So is it gonna be mailed to people? You're gonna have to do it in multiple languages. How is this gonna happen? Are they gonna come every 2 weeks? So there's gonna be major problems. As you see, Quentin's here to inform Eric what's going on, but.
That's not Quentin, that's him from our, he's on our community board. He's on the community board. He just has to be a young person. He's a young person, not Quentin.
Sorry about that.
You got promoted.
None of them want to take responsibility. I spoke to Brad Hoylman once. He said they asked for a vote and that's how you got the survey. So I think the vote had failed. We don't need to do it. We have 949 signatures that say no to demolition.
Right,
Okay?
but it's, what that Travis brings up is you get a third party in to put the matter to bed once and for all. Because a petition is a petition, but something monitored by a third party is conclusive.
An actual vote.
An actual vote, you're still gonna have problems. Are people gonna take it? Because there's so much misinformation at this point.
That's all gotta get.
So that's why I said in the process, actually having a formal sit down where they present all the information on all the data to the residents. A resident, if they can't attend, can send a proxy or have someone come back and report the information back to the tenants, the individual residents. There's some way we can monitor this and oversee it. I think that's how a normal process would occur.
We're talking normal. This is
Correct.
not how you have normal.
And so what we're trying to do is course correct.
I guess.
Good, so the thing is a conversation of what actually went on in Greece. Okay, they were not letting tenants from other NYCHA developments into these meetings. They literally had security look at the roster of tenants and not let people in. There was literally someone who got arrested, who was a NYCHA tenant who should be allowed into a meeting. That's how far it went.
Yeah.
They were having people put stickers up all over the place. They botched an election as well to prolong the process. Now, of course, they have an anti-demolition person who's for Section 9, who's there. It's already starting to go too far. I literally was talking last week. I went to a meeting at Frederick Douglass dealing with Section 8 or Section 9. I had Terry Meltzer from Terry from Meltzer Towers come to me and say Simon is telling him a building built in the 1970s has severe problems. This is where we are at this point. It is that serious. What goes on here now begins the process of everything else. Of every NYCHA development, rent control, rent stabilized. Do not think they will not take this place down. They will take everything down as much as they can. We all know what's going on at 46th Street, where we promise people will come in, they're gonna make things beautiful, and now, bye, those people are on the line.
So I think this is an important point. Historically in our community, new initiatives by the city of New York, for whatever reason it is, happens here on the west side. And then once those get established, it's used as a citywide model. So the real thing I brought over and over, and I'll say it again, is if there is a full demolition proposal here in the west side in Chelsea, that's a model for NYCHA to use in other locations that have high land value.
Right.
And that's a driver here, the high land value. And by the way, I will say, and I'll say it publicly, I said it to you, that I am not opposed to a compromise plan. I'm not opposed if people in Fulton want some demolition, if it's infill, I'm not opposed to any of this. I am opposed to it's this or nothing.
At this point, we're gonna have to really work at this.
Correct.
There's no trust. Let's be
There's
quite real.
100%.
And we don't know if the people at Fulton want demolition.
We don't.
We don't.
We don't.
We know that's what someone is.
That's what has been represented, but. we
Yeah,
don't know if
that's what's
a
being
fact.
represented, but we don't know. So you're starting to hear from tenants in Fulton, they're coming here and asking questions. Now, Jamar's not going to lie, which he can't help himself. What? It's true. They're pushing a certain, rhetoric. Everyone's pushing a rhetoric, but this has got to stop at some point. And the people, try to figure out what the truth is, and this is where we're at. So yes, we want section 9. It can be done, but political will, pushing people to get it and to actually listen. And can't say there's no money. 70 billion just went to the MTA. And they spend money all the time. It's called accountability and pushing. And that goes to our elected officials and everyone else in government.
So you're getting the last word, David. Militia, anything to say, it's got to be very brief because we're at 9:25 for a 9:30 close.
I'll be very quick. We talked about studios and one bedroom, something I want to point out. NYCHA responded to a bunch of CB4 questions on the 21st with a letter that Jesse shared with us. I'm not sure everyone looked at it. One thing it noted was that there will be a loss of 260 NYCHA bedrooms. That is nearly 13% of NYCHA capacity. They did say that.
In other words, there'd be many more smaller, the apartments would not be as large, and that was our big question.
Right. I'd also like to point out that during the 2 hearings last week, only 2 people, Hector and Miguel, spoke in favor.
No, one spoke in favor in Fulton also.
And there was nearly 50 people speaking at each one, overwhelmingly against demolition. It's been presented in this board that the residents are split and the wider community is equally split. That is completely false. I've never heard anyone from the outside community speak in favor of demolishing these buildings. The community fully supports keeping them. I think that should be on our wish list, no comprehensive demolition. And I'd also like to point out that NYCHA has been failing to do its required facade inspections. I investigated the sidewalk sheds that are sprinkled among the buildings. 5 of the Fulton buildings have active violations with DOB, including $54,000 fines for NYCHA failing to do facade inspections. And at the same time, they're telling us in the DEIS that these buildings can't be renovated because of facade problems that are their own nature. It smacks of demolition by neglect.
So,
can I ask it's Lydia Andre, I'm sorry. Can I ask where's the meeting with the electeds? We need you guys to get that meeting on the board. No matter what we do, we don't have access, and that's got to stop.
Lydia, are you talking about the town hall?
Yes.
Okay.
We are still scheduled.
We are still
working on scheduling that.
Jesse, any update at all? Nope. Nope. Okay. So what I want to say, first of all, I hope.
I haven't said anything on.
Oh, Pete, okay, but Pete, we're at the end, so you got.
I've been on this for many, many years, even prior to this, what we have here right now. You know, you have 3,000 more or less tenants among the complex, within the complex. And only 29% voted. Now, I'm not sure if that's gonna change much. Because it's a certain amount of people that will not vote at all. They will remain undecided. What's gonna happen if, let's say, that percentage more or less stays the same? I mean, have you thought about that?
Pete, let me just note that there was no vote. It was a survey characterized as a vote. The information was exceptionally unclear. And we're merely talking about.
I'm talking about you.
Right, so we don't know any of that. And we're trying tonight to come up with ideas and talk about how to move forward.
Okay.
Not saying what's gonna work or not work. We're not gonna know that tonight.
But it seems to be a consensus that the initiative that they're taking now in rehabilitating the buildings right now, that is related, is taking that responsibility.
They are not taking any initiative. Their initiative is to
So
demolish.
nothing is being done right now.
Only-
to repair
only-
the interim.
Only ongoing repairs. The bridge, yes,
Bridge plan.
yes.
So that's going on. So that's
That's
the only thing that seems to be the
There's
consensus.
4,400 open work orders, 178 have been completed.
Out of only 178.
They're behind.
No, wait.
They're
So
failing
anyway-
on purpose.
Okay, again, what I want to say again here before we go off the rails is that this was meant to be a start, not a finish at all. It was meant to sort of, we use that, set the table again to think how we're going to talk. And we're going to now caucus back on the community board and really do outreach to everybody to say, how do we start a process? And I encourage everybody, we're going to set up a series of meetings. We can literally have blood on the floor and argue with each other, but at least we know that. Excuse me, Luana.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I want to read it here. I said, when I set up a series of meetings, we can have blood on the floor, but at least we know we're talking to each other to try to go toward a common goal. And that's the point of starting this tonight. I know it's a little bit tough, a little bit, all over the place, but we have people full of humans that are in this with lots of different issues.
Joe.
Not so simple.
Not all the
Yeah.
committee members have been able to speak. Katie's been there patiently.
Right, so I know, but not all the committee members in this room have been able to speak either. So our problem is it's 9:30 and we have to be out of the room. What I'm gonna ask is, this is the first start. It's not the end at all. And we're gonna figure out a structure to get people from the committee, from the public, from the tenants in the same room to start talking about this. I did not expect we come to anything at all that everybody would get heard. But I really want to thank everybody for at least being here tonight to listen through it. So, Jesse, our next meeting is in June, but we're going to set up some sort of meeting in the middle before that to bring a group together to start talking. All right, motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?